Infidelity.
Today, man, Alex White and myself, as leaders and execs of Minority Prospects, really wanted to bring this moment to you guys to make sure that we put you guys in position. You'll hear that a lot today as we move forward. It's all about position. I was blessed to have a 15-year coaching career at the collegiate level. And one of the things that I always talked about with my players and my student athletes was being in position. And I told them, this is an opportunity for, yes, me to put you in position on the field and to maximize your talent and whatever direction God has for you on this field, but it was also a mission for me to spit out 35 coaches. What do I mean by that? When I say spit out 35 coaches, I want to make sure that every aspect that I teach in that program manifested into them being able to pass it along to someone else. Because if we can have that mindset about teaching and creating coaches, now the leadership is taken care of. So moments like this was a 2-year vision for Alex and I. So to be standing here right now with a lot of familiar faces who we know are impacting the game at a high level and that we support is a big moment for us. Let's give a round of applause for it. Today we are fortunate to have both softball and baseball covered from a presentation and speaker, clinician perspective. So a little bit of the lay of the land. We'll start up front here with guest speakers that will come and speak on certain topics. You guys have an agenda in your folders. So you'll see that softball will be covered and baseball perspectives will be covered. That was important for us because the sports are designed differently. So we'll run through the course right here. We'll give all of our clinicians and speakers the opportunity to come and drop the knowledge on you. But first, I would like to introduce Mr. Jeff Johnson, who is going to be our MC and moderator for this event. Mr. Jeff, would you please raise your hand? Jeff is JJE Media and also Monumentus Baseball, does a lot of work for the organization for Minority Prospects and also just the baseball and softball world. All right, so thank you, Jeff, for being here and moderating. Next, I would like to call up our CEO and founder, the brains behind the operation of even starting this. One of the things that I know he and I talk about all the time is our experience before Minority Prospects. When you start something and go on an entrepreneur journey, most times God puts you in positions to make sure that you're ready for what's really to come, the real impact. And so, yes, we had 15-year journeys at the high school level, at the college level, but everything that was in those 15 years prepared us for these moments. So that's why we want to make sure that we bring you here to network, meet like-minded people, and learn. We can all learn from each other. We don't know it all, so we came here to learn as well. All right, so if you would, give me a round of applause for our CEO, founder, Alexander White.
Hey, I appreciate it, Reggie Hollins. One thing I'm gonna say about Reggie, it's hard to find good help. If you're a coach, if you're a manager, whatever it is, you understand that you need somebody that does something that you don't do well. I was a great manager at Redan, but Harnett was a better coach, right? So you gotta find somebody who offsets you. I'm good at social media, managing, doing great things with, ideas, but Reggie is the business side. If we talk about money, anything, don't call me. You call Reggie. So that's another thing we're gonna talk about too is finding people. You can't do it all by yourself. You need help, coaches, at the end of the day. I know you try to control everything, but to be successful in this game and have a great program, you're gonna need help. So if that's coaching them up to do what you need or just find the right people, make sure you have good people by you. All right, we started this is probably one of my passions for 2025. Hopefully in December, I want to do one. I was just telling Marvin, I want to do one with 1,000 minority coaches. All right, because when I go to all these conferences, one thing they're going to say, when I was looking for jobs and trying to go to pro ball, I went to everything, all right, to learn and try to get better. All right, but when I was going to those ABCAs and these different conferences, I was only seeing, it might be 10,000 coaches there, but there's only 100 black coaches. All right, so how can we talk about growing the game? It's cool to do showcases, events, and all that, you know, the rest of those things, but if we're not growing the coaches, we're behind. All right, we're not making that pool wider, we're behind. If we just gonna say we're gonna hope for 100 kids to make it to the big leagues and MLB and the top travel teams, and we're just focusing on the top 100 players and hoping that 10 make it, that's not being realistic. When in DR, they got thousands. All right, so we're just trying to make this make sense and give you guys everything you guys need to be successful. It's not a competition, guys. The better the tribe is, the better MVP is. All right, the better GBSA is, the better MVP is. The better Lovejoy and everybody else is, the better we are. All right, so it's not a competition. I want us to get out of that crab in a barrel black folks syndrome that's a competition. It's about growth. All right, it's about growth. So let's grow today, man. Every session that we have today, you should be on your having pen, paper, and getting notes and writing it down and applying it to your program. All right, that's our goal. Again, when I go to these conferences, it's cool to network and have fun, but I'm not getting enough information to grow my program. So our goal right here is to give you enough. When you leave here, you should have enough to be able to go run a fluent practice. You should, if you're not doing, I brought in Harnett, if you're not doing double cuts, everything that you're gonna learn today. All right, so give me about 6 or 7 hours, guys, and lock the freak in. All right, I know we want to watch football, all that, but again, your program, your kids is a representation of you. All right, when a kid went to FAMU and he didn't do well, that was the last time I was able to get a guy in the FAMU. All right, so the kids represent you, your program represents you. I promise, when I'm looking at that paper and me and Harnett trying to get it to the playoffs, and I see this team 2-5 or 2-12, that's a representation of the person who coached them. You might not have none, but I don't care. I'm calling you a sorry coach. I'm finna beat you to death. All right, so everything represents you. All right, let's get it going, Reg. I'm ready to knock it out. Yeah, look, so there's one wrong guy. You're trying to reach team and different. Again, it's too late for y'all. Y'all too old. All right, it's us trying to get the younger kids to understand. Hey, baseball is cool. All right, so we created a character, Swaggy and Sassy, to try to get to those younger kids. All right, so now we're doing books to get in different places that we can't get in as adults. All right, same thing with our cartoons that we have. So we're just trying to mind manipulate, you know, different things to try to get kids at a younger age. Our goal is to grow at the younger age and get bigger. Okay? So make sure we'll talk about fundraising also. But everybody in here, make sure you get a book. All right? It's only $10. Support the cause. All right, this is a different type of way that we fundraise, but we can also show you different ways to fundraise that we'll talk about later on in the day.
All right, guys, we'll kind of kick it off. Alex and I will share this moment here just to talk about the power of social media. And when we talk about the power of social media, that not only extends to what you're posting on those sites, the content, but also streaming, right? One thing, I see a lot of familiar faces, and a lot of these programs in here are really getting good at their social media presence. One thing that helps is branding, identity, who you are, what you stand for. And if we're moving in a world of social media, guys, and that's what's present, we have to adjust as the older generation if we're going to connect and reach the kids. So again, that falls into branding, putting out a schedule, you know, letting scouts know what's coming. That's a big problem. A lot of the scouts can't find your schedules. And these are things that we hear as feedback. All right, making sure college coaches have that schedule so they can get out and recruit. Okay, and social media is that platform that takes 2 seconds. As soon as you press send, it's gone to the world. Right, so we have to understand the power of social media, understand the power of branding, marketing, and everything that we want to instill when it comes to our program.
Check.
All right, I got a saying, guys. If they don't see it, it didn't happen. All right, that's just being real. When we're trying to sell our company, sell our business, sell our program. All right, put that down in your notes. If they don't see it, it didn't happen. All right, we grew Minority Prospects into one of the biggest companies in the world off social media. All right, I started it. It was in COVID. I was just mad. We just found another 90 arm at Reed-In. We feel like this is our best chance to win the state. And scouts and coaches, when COVID hit, nobody could go to games, right? So when I went to, Perfect Game, then stopped. So when I went to games to film these guys, it was just me and doggone Next Up. So when I started posting videos of Tamar and these guys doing well, scouts started following, players started following, because what we understand with kids and grown-ups, everybody like to get likes and everybody like to get followers. All right, so use this social media, guys, as a tool. I know a lot of us are old school and don't believe in it. All right, social media is your biggest help. All right, so starting with a website, like Reggie said, when we talk about colleges and different things like that. All right, make sure that your company, high school, travel team, personal organization, make sure you have an efficient website that works. All right, so when I go to Reed-In High School, if I go to Tribe, wherever I'm at, I want to be able to type in tribebaseball.com. All right, and for me, my preference, what I would want to see is I want to see some on the owner. I want to see something on the kids and schedule. Same thing with high school. I want to see what your high school, your past accomplishments, hopefully a roster, and then your schedule. All right, so website is key. Email is key. Making sure that we're answering emails and responding back. All right, make sure that you're able to be contacted, guys, that your email is attached to your website and somebody can contact you. I can't give you no money if I can't contact you. All right, we're going to move into Instagram. Everybody should have an Instagram. Even if you Greg Goodwin, 99 years old, you should have an Instagram. All right, promote your business. All right, even if it, like when Goody he just won an award at ABCA. All right, he posted on Facebook that he did well. He ain't looking at it, but he got like 700 comments and 700 likes. All right, now people are paying attention to what he's doing, because again, guys, you're not just selling your program, you're selling yourself. That's what I was telling people when they went to Reed-In. Hey, I don't give a dang about the school. I'm selling you that I'm gonna get you where you need to be. All right, so making sure, guys, that we all have Instagrams, making sure that our player has Instagrams that make sense. All right, what I mean by make sense, it should be, if I'm Danye Evans, right-hand pitcher, Reed-In High School, whatever. All right, a lot of times when I'm trying to find guys to post, or people just trying to find people as scouts, we can't find a player because the name is Too Cool Joe. All right, I'm looking for Danye Evans. How am I supposed to know it's Too Cool Joe? All right, so if I have a high school travel program, one of the biggest things is making sure that my players are able to be found. Because if you had a tournament or something like that, how can I post you and collab with you if I don't know what your social media is? All right, again, also with this Instagram, making sure that our players, make sure they post a little bit, guys. I can't get no NIL deal. One thing what the kids doing now, they want to post one time and don't have nothing else on it. All right, make sure they're posting good things. Twitter is more for college coaches, different things like that. So make sure they have a Twitter Facebook is more for the older, our crowd. All right, so when you post, you got to make sure you post that caters to those different things. If I'm going to post something on Instagram, it's going to be something like a reel, something cool, something exciting. All right, if you look at our social media, the one that does well is going to be a home run, something real fast, something real cool. All right, so when you're posting, look at your algorithms. Look at what you're doing. All right, if you're posting and it's not getting likes, that means people don't like what you're posting. All right, making sure that we post stuff that makes sense. All right, if I got a player that's a 6'4" runner and he can't hit, am I going to post him hitting? No. All right, I'm going to post him running bases, maybe a 60, something like that to promote him. Because the only thing the social media is going to do for scouts and coaches, guys, is get them to come see them. All right, the scouts and coaches, they're watching that to see if they can find different players, what they're doing, and if I need to come see them. That make sense? All right, I'm going to go to 2 things, guys, I want you guys to download real quick. It's going to be Fiverr. All right, going to Fiverr.com. All right, we always talk about creating App Store or Google. All right, Fiverr is a website, guys, that you can dang near type in and get somebody to do services to do anything. All right, if you go to my Fiverr right now, I let somebody, it's really, what can I call it, is resourcing your jobs out to people overseas or people who are trying to do the work. All right, so if we talk about flyers, we talk about websites, whatever it is, Fiverr's gonna have somebody to do it. If you look at, it's kind of hard to see because we have the lighting, but if you look at Fiverr, all my flyers are gonna come from Fiverr. All right, they're gonna be like $30, $40, just depends on who you have. It may take you a little time to find somebody who does stuff that you want them to do the right way, but use Fiverr, guys. Use Fiverr. It shouldn't be nothing where we have people, I can't find somebody to do it. All right, if there's nobody in your school that can do it, Fiverr will have somebody that can do it for you. All right, so make sure you guys, you write down Fiverr. All right, next thing is ChatGPT. All right, ChatGPT. All right, if you're not up to date with technology, ChatGPT is the new technology AI that's gonna take everybody's jobs at some point. All right, but with ChatGPT, you can type in anything and it's gonna spit out whatever you kind of need. All right, so type in baseball fielding plan or something like that. Press enter. It'll give you a detailed description of defensive plans, whatever you want. All right, say you want to talk about, I need a lesson plan for tomorrow if I'm a teacher. I want a lesson plan on math, 3rd grade level. It'll give you everything you need for that task. It's the best cheat code you can have, guys. It shouldn't be nobody, if you send me over a letter and it's misspelling or it don't make sense. I can put that letter in or the description that I want it to be in, put in ChatGPT, and it's gonna give you everything you need. All right, so those are 2 cheat codes, guys, that I'm giving you, Fiverr and ChatGPT. Those are things that I use every day. If it's from creating an email, if it's from creating a post, y'all probably like, but this man here done got good on posting, boy. He doggone detail, he got the hashtags. Hell no, that ain't me. AI. All right, so make sure you knock out those 2. Those are just some things that we want to give you guys, some quick notes that you can have dealing with social media. But my biggest thing, make sure you get adequate with social media. Everybody, coaching-wise, should have an Instagram, a Twitter, and a personal Facebook page where you can reach different people. We understand? I appreciate it.
All right, to pull up the rear on the social media, just branding, last year we launched a partnership with Game Changer and Dick's Sporting Goods. And the reason for that partnership was to make sure that our communities had something that provided a similar look across the board. Because again, the way one coach reacts or acts affects the next. So when Alex and I are out representing, it affects everybody. Same for you guys. It affects all of us. So what we did was partner with a like-minded company with Game Changer. Most of you are very familiar with Game Changer on the structure of stat, right? Because again, guys, we understand, we're giving you these tips and gems because we understand that you don't have 5 coaches at your disposal, right? Even some of us at the college level deal with those adversities. So we get it, right? So what we did with Game Changer was ink that partnership so that all of our communities can receive streaming and stats for free. And then, and that's the key word, guys, for free. Because again, budgets and fundraisers that we'll talk about later, it's all in how you position yourself to cut costs. Everything that's valuable will not come in a money form. And that's what you'll learn about Minority Prospects in the way we move. In-kind can be just as good as cash value. Okay, so when you talk about Game Changer, it'll give you the stat structure, it organizes your roster, it spits everything from a season perspective. You can put your schedule out, and you can send it all out to your parents, fans, supporters, so that you have something that is now organized. You don't have to wait on the sports information director. What we're teaching here today is stop waiting. Position yourself. There are technology that exists for us. Okay, so that goes hand in hand with that social media. So please write down Game Changer. And before we leave, we will give you the contact to reach out to their administration, and they will set everything up for you and your fans for free. Okay? And then also Canva. Write this last one down before we move on. Canva. Some of you guys are creative, are just as good as those personnel that's doing the work on Fiverr. So if you want to do it yourself, put your own custom spin on it and have that customization to represent your brand in the correct fashion, Canva. Canva, C-A-N-V-A. Okay, that's a software that allows you to put any template in. So if you want a PowerPoint, if you want a flyer, if you want to make badges, it's no excuse for us not to be professional in uniform. And that's what we're trying to make sure that we're all on one accord so that you have the tools to be equipped to be successful and brand your program right. So again, that's Canva, Game Changer, ChatGPT, and then Fiverr. Okay, so you left here with some adequate resources that can help you get started, making sure that you look like there's a whole mass communication team behind your wall. Okay, one thing at Tuskegee, we had to be efficient. And so that's why I'm enjoying this day right here with these clinicians that are gonna come speak, because they're gonna talk about how to be efficient even when you don't have the leg or the manpower. Okay, at one point at Tuskegee, from my personal experience, there was only 2 of us. And at times it was only 1 coach. But if you showed up to my practices, and my good friend here that runs Tribe can tell you, it looks as if it's 6 coaches on the field. So it's no excuse. You can section, you can teach it. We'll talk about pre-practice, because during pre-practice, before workouts, you're gonna know that you're gonna be able to teach your players what to do. JT right here, one of my pitchers, he knows during our pre-practice structure, if I'm pulling up at the facility and I don't see them working individually, getting that pre-practice in, it's a problem, correct? Because I've taken the time to show them the foundation by each position. I didn't let an excuse live that I didn't have coaches. I don't care, learn the position. That's why we're bringing you every angle, bringing you Marvin Freeman. Right? He's going to teach you pitching. That's a big issue in our communities. Pitching. We have guys that are throwing. It's a difference. And Marvin's going to educate you and tell you. Okay, so everything today, guys, please enjoy it. Take your notes. And we are glad to guide this thing so that we can all really develop as a community.
Hey, real quick before we go into our next speaker, any questions? I'm going to try to do that so you can have it on your mind. Any questions on social media platform? Like I tell people, once I leave here, it's over with. You got us here right now. Any questions on social media, how to build it, how to grow it? Yeah, we'll connect you with the person who actually does the subscriptions and things, and we'll see if we can reverse that and make it work.
Yeah, they'll give you a whole new account, and they'll reorder it for you, so absolutely.
She was asking if you're already paying for Game Changer and you're a partner with us, how can you get it for free, basically? And just contact Reggie, and we'll get you in contact with the head guy, and we can give you a new subscription.
Hey, Alex, I can't see the screen. Can you spell, I got Canva and Game Changer. What were the other three?
Fiverr, Fiverr.
All right.
And then Chat GPT, ChatGPT. So again, on these apps, guys, it shouldn't be no bad flyers. 2 R's? 2 R's in Fiverr, Fiverr. So again, when we're posting, guys, it shouldn't be no bad flyers. It shouldn't be no bad videos. If you need me to see the video, and if it's a guy, well, we're going to have Derek Tucker come up here and say what a guy look like. If it's not a guy, I advise you, it's not recommended to post. All right. Any other questions? We good? Social media? Go ahead. Yeah. Get somebody who does social media well. Once they start getting videos and they start getting likes and followers, they'll continue to post. All right? And again, posting stuff that looks good. You know what I mean? Get you a, if it is, get you a high-tech team for a second. Somebody in your school, if you're a teacher, somebody in your school, y'all got a tech department. All right, get them to, hey, man, I need you for a day or two. Come film this practice, our weight room, different things like that, and let them slice it up. All right, get one of your most buff guys and put him on a benching or something and see how it go. You know what I mean? Again, the social media will show you what does well. All right, if it's no likes, if it don't get no play, people don't like it, it's lame. All right, if it's doing well, keep doing the same platform. Keep doing the same thing. Don't go away from it. If a guy can't hit curveballs, they ain't gonna throw him a fastball, right? All right, same thing on social media. See what does well and continue to do it. All right?
Folks, I'm Jeff. I'm loud. Really don't need the mic, but I just want to reiterate just a couple things that Alex said concerning your social media, your digital footprint, the things that you can use your media for. What he just gave you literally is a cheat code. Fiverr will do the things for you. ChatGPT, in my business, which is media, network, operations, different things like that, all those guys use that all the time. That's all they do. So please, if you see me around or whatever, I'll be happy to talk with you a little bit more about it, but he's right on point with that. So we're going to go ahead and get into our educational sessions right now so you can listen to the real experts at this. And starting right now, our first session is going to be the power, well, our second session actually. What does a prospect look like? All right? Our speaker today, please welcome up Derek Tucker. Derek, please tell them a little bit about yourself and where you are and all the different things.
Hey, well, I first want to thank Weiss for having me out today. He's been such a huge part of my career growing up, and our friendship means a lot to me. So when he gave me the opportunity to come speak to you guys today, it was one of the first things I could do to say yes and come out here. So I appreciate you guys having me out. I'm looking forward to getting to listen to everybody here, talk to you guys, and just like you guys, I'm here to learn and pick up stuff to help me, as I continue to move down my path as well too. So, like I said, my name is Derek Tucker. I've been Georgia baseball player, coach, scout my whole entire life. I live right here in Atlanta, Georgia, over in Grant Park, just down the road. And this is my home. I think Georgia is one of the best baseball states in the entire country, and we've proven that over the past, 20 plus years with the impact we've had in Major League Baseball with the players that we've all coached and been around and mentored to and do all that. So, especially here in the last probably 5 years, we're having major impact on guys that have come through, minority baseball, through the Atlanta area, through our colleges, through our high schools, through our summer programs. We're starting to see all kind of guys like Lawrence Butler and Taj Bradley and Mark Church and a lot of guys right here inside the perimeter that, are not only performing well on the field, but also having impact in our community as well too. And today we're having Will Benson called us up. We're having all kind of showcase stuff for him over at Maynard Jackson and different things. So like Alexander's talking about, we're starting to see the people that we've mentored along the way also have an impact in our community and doing good things as well too. So just quick touch, it don't really matter about my background, it doesn't matter, but I did coach at Kennesaw for a little while at Kennesaw State. Sorry. Am I clearly speaking or? Sorry.
Do you have a question?
No, I was asking if you could try without the mic because that echo was killing
The echo is killing them. Is there any way you can turn it up or try it? Just give it a shot and see what we can do. Can y'all hear him doing that better or with this?
Just raise your hand if you don't. I'll try and hold it away a little further from you if y'all hear me or need to ask a question. But yeah, spent 10 years with the Texas Rangers in scouting. Spent about 6 to 8 years in college coaching, and am currently now the scouting supervisor for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I cover Georgia and Jacksonville. That's just a little bit about my background. So here today, Alex wanted me to talk to you a little bit about our process, how that works, how you guys can get information to us. So we can scout your players and hopefully help them achieve their goals and their dreams, maybe what a prospect looks like from that end. The first thing is basically everything that Weiss talked about as far as the social media stuff and all that is a huge tool that we use very much. So if Marvin Freeman calls and tells me about a pitcher, probably one of the first things that I do is I'm going to Google that guy's name, go through some type of search on Twitter or Instagram, try and find some video, try and find something that I can look at and make a plan from there about trying to come see the player. This would have been a lot easier conversation probably 10 years ago. I could probably stand up here and say there's about 5 things we look for, and those are, your 5 basic tools, and we're looking for big, physical, fast, and strong, and elite level players. The landscape in scouting has changed a ton. Minor league baseball has changed a ton, and used to be we had 40 rounds and we could just draft as many interesting athletes as we could, throw them out there and see who survives. Unfortunately now when we sit down and we decide who we're drafting a player, we have a long laundry list of checklists that we have to comb through now that we probably didn't have to comb through as much back in the past. And we have to give our guys a lot of information to be able to take this player. So analytics is playing a big part in that. I'll go into a little bit about some of the basic levels of data that we look at when we are drafting players. We're also looking heavily into the social media stuff, who these guys are character-wise, who they are as players, because now we only have 20 rounds, and the players that we have that we're sending out have to be ready to handle professional baseball, and they have to be able to be ready to get out there and play almost an A-ball because we've gotten rid of so many levels in the minor league levels. So the main thing from an analytics standpoint that we are looking for now on both sides of the ball, whether it be pitching and or hitting, is basically the ability to control the strike zone. That's your easy answer. From a pitcher, it's the ability to land your best stuff over in the zone. And from a hitter, it's the ability to control the strike zone, not chase, put the ball in play, and when you do make swing decisions, hit the ball extremely hard. That's the cliff notes of it. We look at a lot of detailed stats. We have our own analytic departments that comb through everything. So with high school guys being in these events, some of these showcases that they're doing at the minority prospects, having data there, having access to, if you have an upper level arm, getting information on TrackMan at some of the facilities that we have, or any type of data from that standpoint can help that process go move on. Any questions from like the data standpoint? I don't want to get too caught up in that, but definitely want to talk about it. Yes, sir. Yeah. I don't know that that's a stat that we've dove like heavily in. I think what I try and do is I compare them to other guys that I'm like watching that I've seen. So if you have an outfielder that I haven't seen and you call him and tell me this guy's got a really good arm and I see that he's 98 miles an hour on perfect game or something, then I would kind of look up some other guys that have been there and seen nothing. I think outfielders, anything over 95 I'm looking at is probably a pretty good arm. You know, I think the elite high school guys are throwing 100 plus. So on our scale, that's where you start getting into like the 60s, 70s on that scale.
What are you looking for? What are you looking for? Because what I was telling you earlier, everybody thinks they got a prospect, right? So if I'm going to a high school, what are you looking for? Say if I have a pitcher and I call you out, and it's a pitcher 88, 92 maybe, right? Is it a certain number you guys are looking for to actually draft a pitcher velo-wise? I know you said commanding the strike zone, which we understand, but what is a Q number that, because when I had Taj Bradley, when I seen he was 90, 92, I said, shit, we might have something. Then he had a plus curveball, different things like that. We understood that. But what gets your attention? If I call you, if one of these guys call you, what did that velo have to look like?
So there's two parts to this question for me personally. There's what's your now velo, and then what's your future velo going to be. I think that the hardest thing to teach pitchers currently is the ability to throw strikes. I think we have a lot of training programs now that can help increase velo. With that being said, you have to have a baseline, and then there has to be some type of, if you're not, I say 92 or plus is probably like an entry level to a high school pitcher, but not limited to that. So like Mark Church was a guy we drafted with the Texas Rangers in the 18th round. He wasn't a super high prospect. He would touch some 90, maybe some 91s early, but he was growing physically. You could look at his passion, his work ethic. Physically, you knew he was going to get bigger and stronger. You had seen steady velo gains, which is something I want to know the history of as I'm doing that. Like he was 86, then 87, then 89, and then 91, and you could track that over time through his social media stuff to the point where you could say this guy's going to throw harder. Right now in the world we're in, velo is everywhere. Like you would be shocked at how many guys that I consistently see throw 95 miles an hour. And when we're in that draft room and we're really breaking down the right-handed pitcher board, there's probably 800 guys in every draft class that are well into the mid-90s or higher. So it's, the velo gets you noticed, it gets you out there. That's what you can post on the social media stuff, like so-and-so hit 93, as long as it's accurate, that's gonna get my attention. And then, like, that's our goal as coaches, to get our guys seen, and then we start making further decisions on from there. Secondary becomes one of the biggest separators, guys that can really spin the baseball, throw their breaking balls in the zone and get swing and misses. And then obviously back to the size and the projection piece. Like, if you look on TV, there's not a ton of 5'10" guys throwing 88 to 90 miles an hour, and they don't survive college as well, much less as in pro ball without some serious types of intangibles.
Yeah, moving to understanding the pitcher side, hitter side. What are you looking for in a hitter? I know when we talk about draft, I know it's two different sides. Chandler Simpson had to go through a harder route because when he came out of high school, he was thin, good bat-to-ball skills, but didn't show much power. Right. What are you looking for into hitters now, as you talk about that's a draft-ready guy out of high school right now?
Sure. So I think probably like the starting point of that answer is we're looking for middle-of-the-field athletes, guys that can play shortstop at a high level, guys that can play center field. Catching is a premium position. In high school, I would say the majority of major leaguers are playing shortstop, center field, and or catcher. We with the Diamondbacks, especially most Major League Baseball teams, we're big on the profile piece. So if you're not a middle of the field player, you better have some type of real power, size and power. We're talking about like 60 plus raw on our side, exit velos of over 105 if you want to get in the data side of things, and the ability to grow into even more. The guys that play left field, right field, especially if you're a right-handed hitter, you have to be one of the elite top 400 hitters in the entire world to play in the big leagues at this point in those positions. Chandler Simpson in particular was a guy that came to a bunch of our workouts. He had an elite tool at the time, which was a run tool. He just lacked physicality. So if I was promoting him as a high school coach, I would want you guys to call me directly and tell me, hey, I've got a guy, he's a 6'3" runner. He's got off the charts makeup. He's performed at a high level. He's playing shortstop. He just needs to get bigger and stronger. And then I go see that guy and I try and make the decision if I think this guy can handle professional baseball as a 18-year-old kid. In his case, he ended up having to go to UAB for a year, transferred back. He went and got to a place where he could play, and then transferred to a bigger school, put up his numbers, and now he's one of the top prospects in baseball going forward. So I think that strength component of it becomes a huge part of this entire thing. And even if you're a little guy or a big guy, the focus in the weight room, the focus in all the secondary stuff, being able to physically handle professional baseball, a lot of kids lack. They have the skill level or they've got a tool, but they're missing that strength component. So putting that into your guys' high school programs and summer programs is going to really help these kids take it forward to the next step.
Last question for you, D. As we continue to move, we'll get our Clark coach to talk about a little bit of softball or prospect. But last question, the biggest thing for for high school travel coaches is getting guys into college, right? That should be your main goal if you're trying to promote your program. With the landscape of college baseball right now, I know I get calls from people saying, hey, I got a kid that's a D1 guy, but he's not a D1 guy, right? How does the college scene look right now? What would you recommend these guys on promoting players to go to college without killing their relationship with a college, right? Because if somebody's calling me and I'm at Kennesaw State and they send me a guy that, hey, I got this kid that can be going to Kennesaw State. He's running a 7-1, not much power, but they think that he can play at that level. Right. How can we advise these guys on what's a good place for college for certain kids, if that makes sense?
I think educating yourself on college baseball and understanding that, going to watch college baseball games and, getting a feel for what the style of play is at these different schools and what the players actually look like at the schools is super important. I think when it comes to promoting the kid, I would send a personal email directly to the recruiting coordinator at whatever school that kid has interest. More times than not, if I get an email from a high school coach's name, I really believe in this kid for X, Y, and Z. I think he can help your program X, Y, and Z. Here's his information. I'd love to talk to you about him. Here's a number. So I can get on the phone with that coach and have a real conversation. At that point, almost every school now has prospect camps, which you can send guys and get them in front of, which is one avenue. Or in the spring, get their schedule out and send them a matchup. Maybe tell that coach about another player in your region too. they're going to be match up on this day. You can come out and spend a day and see both guys. I think it's a huge benefit to those college coaches. College baseball is changing even more now with these roster limits and the age of the college game. And the transfer portal's opened up opportunities in a good way and a very bad way. I think being open as a high school player, if you're a junior in high school, I think the best thing you can tell your kids is to be open to any different level that calls you, because that might not be the level you finish at. And I know like college coaches don't want to hear that, but you know, a D2 option as a freshman, if you're playing, is better than going to that D1 school and sitting and watching baseball for a year or 2 years, because they're bringing in 24-year-old grad assistants and grad players and transfers as well too. Like, I met with all the Georgia players last week. I think they're doing a phenomenal job, but the average age of the player I sat down and talked to was like 23 years old. Like, these kids are grown men. Like, if you're an 18-year-old kid, you're gonna have a very hard time getting on the field at University of Georgia right now. And that's just the facts, anywhere in the SEC. So if you went to a place like and dominate a mid-major level first, you know, then you not only get paid to go to one of those schools, but then you're more prepared physically, just like you would be the other way as well too. Junior college is always an avenue, but there aren't a ton of junior colleges in Georgia, and the funding for those schools have really gone down as well too. So finding a right fit, not just saying you're going to junior college to go to junior college, but finding the right coaching fit and the development piece is super important there as well.
Hey, Derek, question for Derek. Some of us in the coaching world, we have programs, you know, some programs are going to have top prospects, right? But majority of us are not going to have that top prospect. Can you talk about the advantage of positioning, scheduling, of playing those top prospect teams, and then also maybe at the college level, just positioning contact with reaching out to you when you're going to be on a path, trailways? Say, for instance, an example is Tuskegee sits in the middle of Alabama State and Auburn. So what I would do is position around those guys, knowing that the scouts are coming on that trail, and it benefited my guys. Can you just kind of talk about positioning yourself and the benefit of it?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it. College coaches in general in the spring, your time is very valuable. Getting in those tournaments, I know we all do the Georgia Dugout Club tournament, or if you can get in these larger ones that are at Lake Point, that you surround yourself with a ton of inventory, and then you can email that coach that are in that area. Like if you're playing up at Lake Point and say you email Georgia Highlands, you can email Kennesaw State, and building a database of all those colleges in those different areas. If you're playing in Savannah and you email Georgia Southern and let them know you have some guys, but just that constant communication and those relationships can always help. I think every time I go watch a game as a pro scout, if I'm watching, you know, Redan versus Mundy's Mill, I go up to the Mundy's Mill coach and, hey, you know, who do you got? What younger players? And he might not have a pro guy, but he's like, hey man, I got a guy for you that he's not a draft guy, but he works his tail off. He wants to play. He might be a D3, D2 guy. Can you help me out? And it's one of my favorite things to do is I can say, yeah, let me call Piedmont, or let me call these guys. I'll call 2 or 3 different dudes. I'll watch him today and kind of see where he fits in, and then all working together hopefully to help these guys, you know, find a place to play. But we got to know about the players, and we have to, you know, communicate throughout that process. And to your point, being in tournaments and being in areas where there's a lot of players at one time definitely helps that exposure for that. I'll give all you, we have a Georgia Scout email group that if you send an email to, it goes directly to all 30 teams, the scouts that do this area. So if you have a player from a pro standpoint that you truly feel, whether he's a 27, 26, 25, and that we need to start seeing them, send that now. And then send that before the season with a copy of your schedule, because I might look at it and say, okay, Maynard Jackson is playing Pace Academy on this Tuesday. I already see it ahead of time, and I got to go see Terrence Keel anyway. Now I can go just peep eyes on this prospect at Maynard Jackson that they're telling me about, especially if it's right by my house. So that email is, I'll just make sure I'm telling you right, is Georgia Scouts at googlegroups.com. So Georgia Scouts, plural with an S, at googlegroups.com. And like I think one of the reasons like my Weich's relationship is so good, if he calls about a player, I'm going to go see him, because over the last 10 years, he's always very honest to me about what I'm looking at and who the player is and what kind of person he is. So keep the honesty piece of that. And we all don't have a pro prospect every year, but you might have a freshman that you think might be one. And like I said, just a short email with your schedule and your contact information, and you know, you'll get some feedback from some scouts, and then you can build your database that way as well too, and your connections to help your players.
Like he just said, guys, make sure it's a guy that you feel is a real pro prospect. It only takes one time to burn a bridge, all right, and for your credibility to be killed. All right, so if you need a recommendation, you can contact me before you send it out. I'm gonna tell you, hell no, he ain't a prospect, or if he is, I'm gonna be honest with you, because like Mr. Derek Tucker said, we had a relationship for the last 10 years because when I call him, it's a guy. Keyston Fuller, God bless him, he should have signed with the Rangers, you know, in the draft, and that's another thing. Just being honest with your kids when we talk about going to college and pro ball. I think that's the hardest thing as a coach to do, is to not shoot down a guy's dream, but to be honest with him. I was telling Goody, we always talk about every year at Redan when I was there, every kid signed for 6 years. It wasn't that I had great players every year. It's that I put them in a situation where, man, you're a Voorhees guy, man. Go to Voorhees. If you tear that up, you can go somewhere else. All right? It ain't lowballing them. It's just being honest, guys. We got to be honest with these players. Everybody not going to go to Georgia Tech. And again, what we do with our ground levels that we do for these next 4 or 5 months is get guys to go to actual colleges and see these games. I can raise my hand right now. You might think you got a Georgia Tech guy, but how many guys have seen Georgia Tech play in the last year? Basically none, but you're going to say, hey, I got a Georgia Tech guy, but you don't know what Georgia Tech talent look like. Same thing with a Southern and a Jackson State. I started posting a little bit more of these players that go into HBCUs because people feel like they're better than HBCUs and going to these colleges, and you ain't never seen a player that went to Southern or Grambling or these places. All right, so like Mr. Tucker said, do your research, guys. If you say, hey, I think this kid can go to Kennesaw, go look at all the Kennesaw, look at their roster. Look what those kids and their rosters did the last couple of years. Okay? That makes sense? Any questions for Derek Tucker? We're going to bring up Clark's head coach in a second to go into softball real quick about what a prospect looked like. Anybody got a question for Mr. Tucker real quick, since he's doing anything on scouting, anything on a player, or anything? Any questions?
I'm going to give you my email too. You can email me about players too, but mine's dtucker@dbacks.com. Like I said, I cover all of Georgia and been here, so if you've got something that you think I need to know, I'd love to hear it from you. And like I said, I appreciate you. Wish you guys all luck this spring.
Yep. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Hold on, we got one question.
Would you say that character in a player will supersede his talent, or is it vice versa, or they have to balance each other?
Yeah, kind of. That's a big question.
Question was,
it always matters.
Do character outweighs talent, or is it, switch swap?
It's, as much as I don't want to say this, I wouldn't want to teach my kid this, but it's a sliding scale like anything. And there's a lot of really talented people that can play in the big leagues that might have questionable character. But I break it down when I'm evaluating a person as 3 types of makeup. Like we grade it on a 20 to 80 scale, like 50 being average, 20 being extremely poor, and 80. And I look at it as either your makeup's going to help you perform underneath your talent level, it's going to help you perform at your talent level, or it's going to help you perform above your talent level. And my job as a scout is to evaluate that talent level and then decide, you as a person, are you going to be a better player than that talent, worse player, or about that talent? The better your character and the better your work ethic and the more competitive you are and all these traits that we all want as coaches that we want in our dugout, then the more leeway I'm having on some flaws in the talent. Like Mark Church was not the best player in the state of Georgia when we took him in the 18th round. He was a developing pitcher. But when I met with him and his mother we ate at a restaurant right after one of the games, within 30 minutes of being around this kid, I could tell that there was something different in this kid's passion to get better. He asked about 100 questions. He was working every day. He was gaining pitching information. When I asked what is he doing to get better, he would give me a list of 15 things. He's looking at YouTube videos and pitch grips and mechanics and like things that a lot of kids don't give you. So it helped me project on his talent level to be a better baseball player, and gave us the ability for me to, when I stood in front of the Rangers saying, I really want to take this kid and tell why he's going to get better. So, I mean, character's always important. I hate to downplay that. But there are also kids that are extremely talented that, make it on talent alone, unfortunately. Now they usually don't stay there very long, but.
Just to piggyback, when he talk about, it may be a differentiator when we talk about the top players, right? The character aspect of it. Now, we're not saying a kid got great character and he's a 20 player, right? We talking about the character may be a difference if it's two guys that's Power 5 and really good players. The character and the development may be the change of them making it to the big leagues or not.
Yeah, and when we're talking at the top of the draft, I mean, everybody's like good up there. I mean, the character becomes probably one of the makeup of the player and who they are as a person and competitor is what's going to decide who we take all the time.
Derek, can you give him your email one more time?
Sure, it's dtucker@dbacks.com.
dtucker@dbacks.com. Diamondbacks. The Georgia Scout one again.
Yeah, it's Georgia Scouts, spelt out, at googlegroups.com. Like I said, anything you send on that goes to all 30 Major League Baseball teams.
Last thing, D. Can you just tell them how do the hierarchy of scouting work? So it's a bird dog. Can you tell them just the hierarchy, how it works real quick for players? Like, say if Redan has a player, an area guy got to see him before they recommend him to blah blah blah.
Yeah. So if Redan has a player, I'll get a call from somebody that tells me about him at some point, try and see him in the summer, see him at these showcases, build a history. As the area scout in my position, it's my job to identify those players, write a full report on the player, both the talent level and the character and makeup level. It's 2 different reports. And then I recommend those guys to our cross-check group, our national cross-check group. I basically make a pref list out of guys that are just in my area, and then the guys that I think I can sign or that I believe in or that I really want to draft for the Diamondbacks, I'll call in my, cross-checkers, and then we help line them up across the country prior to the draft. So the identification process starts with this email chain that I gave you. That goes to the 30 area scouts like myself. So you might get 3 calls back, you might get 30 calls back, you might get none, but at least they'll know the name or they'll see your schedule, and when they see you at a game or when they match you up, they can come and watch the kid play or see more about it.
No, I appreciate it, D. I just want them to understand when your players or your guys saying, hey, and they got agents and they saying, I'm going to get drafted. I think I'm going to get drafted, but there's no scouts or et cetera there or no big guys there. Just make sure we cognizant of, what's real and what's not real, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, Derek Tucker.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Y'all, let's give it up for Derek. Y'all, first off, I wanted to just remind everybody, all of the speakers that are going to be coming up, if you'll come and stand in the middle, because we are streaming this as well. We always want to say thanks to our good friends that are doing that. And the words and the information that y'all are getting is gold. When he just gave you that opportunity to send something out to the coaches like that, gave them your email, use it, y'all. Use it as much as possible. Okay. Right now, to kind of bring another little perspective to this is the head coach of Clark Atlanta University, Nicole Bayona. Please give her a round of applause. She's going to talk a little bit about the same thing from a college perspective.
Hey guys, thank you for being here. So it is definitely very different from that perspective for sure. We are Division II, and I'm sure it'll be different for a FAMU coach as well. But for me, I would say the biggest thing is to have your girls come to our camp. I'm really big on that. I can tell you out of the 9 girls that I have right now in our 2025 class committed to come in this fall, they all came to my fall camp. So I'm really big on that, but the thing, it shows that you're interested too. And I go and see them in the fall before and the summer before, and I reach out. I have a meeting with their parents on Zoom typically if they're far, with them and their parents. I'm big on bringing the parents in and making them understand that they're part of the process as well. Again, this is me personally. I know other coaches do it differently, but that's how I like to do it. I like having the families a part of our program. So definitely make sure your kids are going to the camps that they provide. And because yes, I know you have them probably going to like the showcase camps before the showcase, which is good too, but I'm gonna be brutally honest, it's hard as a coach to see all of them. When I'm on one field, maybe I'm just doing pitching for that camp and I don't get to see them hit. I don't get to see them do defense and stuff, and I'm not in charge of how they do that camp. So depending on the camp, I can see more, but some camps I'll just be stuck in one field. So yes, I get to see a few, but I don't get to see all of them. And in those camps, there's like 300 girls at times, 400 girls. It's really hard. But at the same time, those camps are helpful because sometimes I do see a kid and I'm like, oh, let me put them on my thing. Let me see when they're playing and put them on my, on what I look for. Emails. I'm big on emails. Making sure that they're emailing me their schedule. Especially if they know I'm going to that. I go to Atlanta Legacy all the time. I go to the Owl Showcase, that's also here in Georgia, all the time, and a lot of coaches go to that one, go to both of them. So that's a big thing for us. Does anyone have any questions about this? Yeah, so I'm big on command. So yes, speed is cool, but if you have no command, it's quite useless to me. Maybe you can just make one inning. And also if you don't have good endurance, the girls need to know that they need to run to have good endurance. We play 50 plus games depending on how well we do in a season. So your endurance is truly important, but command is really big for me. Division II, I mean, we look from, most of my girls are like, for their faster pitches, like 56 to 62, maybe 63, nothing too crazy, but consistently we're in that 58, 59 realm on the spin pitches. But I know, again, it's probably different for her. But command is huge. I've always had girls that didn't really throw a lot of velocity, but they could command the ball. So if you could command your curveball, screwball to hit the corner, but also hit the river, that's game for me. Yes?
We're gonna let
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, what age do you advise softball players to start coming to the individual camps? Is it junior year or freshman year or sophomore year? Or just wait till senior year? What's the, in your case?
Yeah, for my camps, I would say start coming your freshman year. So again, like I'm looking for like one JUCO player for 2025. That's what I'm looking for. 2026, I already have 4 commits. So if you could come freshman, sophomore year, and I get to see you, give me your schedule, stay in contact. The other thing, like as a coach, like I love when you guys send me the emails consistently of, hey, we're playing here, we're on this field, and when the girls make it very easy to find them. I'm big on X. I love that, but when they don't put their email in their bio, I want to choke them. So making sure you have your email in there is super helpful.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Girls live in other areas, other parts of the states, Texas, Arizona, California.
Yes.
How do you reach out to those type players?
Yep, so I'll give you an example of like what I did this year, especially since this year was a transition year for me when I came from Florida and moved to Atlanta. I did a lot of Zoom calls with the girls that I was interested in. And also if they email me and I see an interest or I have an interest in them technically and mechanically, I'll reach out to them to set up a call. I have a lot of kids, I have a few kids committed from Texas, Cali, and they'll come to the camps. Trying to get more Georgia kids. We do have a lot of talent here, so.
Yes, indeed. Any other questions? Yes.
So, I'm Crystal Anthony. I coach Lady Braves. We have Michaela Dixon joining your program, so super excited for her. What does, and we get often from parents asking about the offer process. You're getting recruited, you're getting looked at, they want to offer you. What are some of the questions that should be coming to the table from a coach's perspective or for the family that you want them to kind of be proactive in and asking you to have a transparent conversation?
Yeah, so the biggest thing, especially as a Georgia resident, I would be making sure, like, do you know you get the HOPE grant? What grants you have? What's your unweighted GPA? The weighted is pretty, but what's your unweighted? Because that's going to tell me how much money I can give you academically. So those are the kind of questions that I really end up asking, but if you don't know the answers, it takes longer to get to that option. And I could tell you, because we did offer Michaela Dixon, and she's like super small, like really, the biggest thing for us is character. Her character was so loud, it was obvious what kind of player she would be for us, and I knew that she could make a difference in what we're trying to do. So for me, the character of the kid, yes, I wouldn't be looking at you if I didn't think you were talented already, but what are you going to bring to the program? How are you going to continue to grow as a softball player? That's another thing the girls tend to forget, is that I understand you're like super excited about getting committed, and that's like the main goal, but after that, it's not done. The work isn't done. Like, there's more goals and things for you to look forward to, but them understanding that some kids, when they get recruited early and committed early, you'll see them go off the deep end, and they just think, you know, they don't have to play as much or all those kinds of things. And honestly, your opportunity can be taken away from you because I don't see you playing anymore. Just because I recruited you, I keep re-recruiting you. And that's the biggest thing. Now you have more on your back than anything, but they don't seem to understand that. So making sure that your girls understand that is key.
Y'all, let's give her a real big round of applause. Nicole, thank you so much for making this thing work. And now I got double mics. That's trouble. That's trouble. Our next session that we're going to be talking about here in a little bit is all about building that culture thing. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I've got here on my list. Building a winning program. And I know that that's something that you all are interested in. And we've got 3 people I think we're going to be bringing up right now. 2 of them, I'm sure you, I mean, all of them you know. Let's go ahead and welcome Georgia Baseball Hall of Fame coaches, Greg Godwin and Dion Williams, as well. Come on up. Goodwin, I don't know why, I'm sorry. Mr. Goodwin, come on up, bro. You know me. And also, we're going to be bringing up the FAMU head coach, Brittany Beal. Is she around right now? Is she here now? Brittany, come on up. And they're going to be talking about how you can build a winning program, a winning mentality in your school. So, Mr. Goodwin, I'm going to go ahead and give you that. Give you this one. And we'll get this thing going.
Good afternoon. First of all, before we get started, let me thank you guys for even thinking about coaching. It's such an important, integral part of all of our lives. You guys have been impacted by coaches before. And the impact that you have on individuals is immense. You don't think about it because a lot of it is a thankless job, but you are saving lives, and that's the most important thing. 99% of the kids that you coach will not be going professional in athletics, you know what I'm saying? They'll be going professional in something, so I just want to thank you guys for your service. I appreciate that. We are going to talk briefly about a few things that have impacted our programs and developing winning programs and what's been successful for us. Dion and I have been friends for more than 40 years. We're grateful that what the game has done for us, what we've been able to do for the game. We don't agree on everything in baseball. That's the great thing about this game. We don't have all the answers. When we first started in the 80s as high school coaches, we didn't know everything about baseball. I didn't know nothing about pitching, so I went to all the clinics I could go to, find out what I could impart for pitching, because I know it's such an important part about a winning program. You don't have to have kids that throw 9, you got to have kids that throw strikes, though. So that was important to me. You can win with kids throwing strikes. That's 99% of the kids can't hit. You just got to have kids that throw strikes. You know, in high school, 1 through 5 is all you got to worry about. In most programs, 6 through 9 can't hit. So you get 1 through 5, you're going to be pretty good. You're going to be pretty good. We're going to start off talking about establishing a program culture, identity, and vision. And just for me, because we're all going to have different answers, but for me, as far as the culture, I thought it was important that you start with discipline. You got to have discipline. I don't care what it is that you're doing, you got to have discipline. I think it's important that we teach our kids. I mean, first of all, before I even get started, how many of you guys are high school coaches? All right? Youth league coaches. I want to know our audience because I don't want to waste your time. Even in the youth league, you got to have some discipline. Now, you can't punish kids for getting to practice late because they don't drive. But in high school, if their ass ain't in practice on time, you need to get rid of them. They can't dictate what you do. But in Little League, you got to work with that. You know what I'm saying? You can't run a parent, you know, but you can talk to that parent about trying to get that kid there on time because it's important. You only have 60 minutes or maybe 90 minutes. So discipline is extremely important for me. I think as an identity, I think that you have to have communication with the people within your organization. I think it's important that every day your kid knows what he's going to be doing. I think it's important to have a practice plan. You just can't have kids standing around. Organization is extremely important. Know what you're doing every day. Don't come out there and break practice. I think we're going to hit today. I think we're going to do these. Know what you're going to do. It's simple, man. And the great thing about this, I'm not a genius. This is baseball we're talking about. This ain't rocket science. It's baseball. Keep it simple, keep it fun. I also think that as far as the vision, my vision was always to make a kid better than he was when he came to me. Now, winning is important. Don't get me wrong. We wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame if we didn't win. But you can't control that. You know, you can't control if a kid gets better. I just think it's important that you do have a vision, that your vision is that a kid is going to be better when he leaves my program than he was when he got to my program. It's really simple. I'm going to pass it on to D.
I have a mic. Good afternoon. Our programs took a little different path. He was at Redan High School when he first started. I was at McNair High School. Redan was, I would say, 50, 60, 70% white at the time. At McNair, the only thing we had white were the baseballs. But again, with that said, when you talk about culture, you can have a winning culture and not have a winning team. I was fortunate enough to be at McNair, and when I first got the job, I was in the Gresham Park culture community. Absolutely the best program, hands down in the state, without question. But what happened, it never translated to the high school, and it was my job at that point to translate that winning culture from Gresham Park to McNair High School. Was very fortunate enough to have parents who bought into what we were trying to do at McNair. And I say we only had one coach. Didn't have an assistant coach at the time. That one coach was me. But I was very fortunate to have parents in the community, Bernard Patillo, Mitch, Ron Smith, a bunch of guys who said, you know what, we're going to help you translate that winning culture from Gresham Park to McNair High School. My vision at that time was, and I think I see several of my players that are here today, I told them back then, we're going to be the best team in the state at some point if you trust the process. Part of trusting the process is believing in what we do. We had a funny group text going on yesterday. My motto at McNair was, you take no days off. There were 0 days off. That was establishing the culture, that was establishing the identity, and that was our vision, 0 days off. So we actually said, you know, with the snow day on yesterday, one of my players said, you know, Coach, you had us in the outfield doing PFPs on the snow day. And I did. I did, because that was the only way that we were going to be able to compete against some of the other schools. That was the only way. We couldn't take days off, all right? There were times where we went into the gym at 7, 8, 9 o'clock after basketball practice, and we practiced. We practiced in the gym. You got home at 10:30, 11 o'clock, but the parents accepted it and they bought into that process. They realized that if you trust this process, we can get this done. And we did. In 1997, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but we were the first African-American team to start the season ranked #1 in the state of Georgia. All black, #1. Now, we didn't finish the season ranked #1. Of course, we did make the state playoffs. I think that year we lost out in the semis or the quarterfinals of the semis. But again, my point being is that we were establishing what it was, an identity, a culture, and a vision as to what was expected. My biggest, people ask me all the time, what was your biggest accomplishment? It's not the Hall of Fame, it's not how many times we went to the state playoffs. It was about how many kids I could get into college, which, if I'm not mistaken, it was well over 30 kids over a 10-year period. The number of kids that we had drafted, if I'm not mistaken, it was well over 10 or 12 kids that we had drafted, or players, I shouldn't call them kids, but players that were drafted and to go on and have an opportunity to play professional baseball. But my biggest accomplishment is the number of players that played under my tutelage at McNair that are coaches now. Guys that have passed everything that we did on to the next level. And when they succeed, I succeed. When they succeed, I succeed. So that was about building the culture, identity, and a vision that I had. I could go on and on, but I'll digress now.
Excuse me, right here we have probably the only state championship winner other than Christopher Harnett in the building. Brittany Beal will give her a little spiel on winning culture on the softball side.
All right. Make sure it's loud enough. So I can only talk about my experience. I just got the job at FAMU, so coming from high school straight into Division I, I can only kind of talk about my experience as far as my winning culture. I think, to piggyback on what they said, it all is about trusting the process. You have to have parents that are going to trust the process in order for the girls to buy in. For me, I was crazy. I'm just telling you straight up, I'm crazy. We never had a day off, obviously, on a Sunday. But again, I made our practices, I made our discipline consistent. A lot of times you find coaches that, you know, they'll come up, oh, we're going to do this drill today, we're going to hold this down, and then by day 3, they forgot about what they did in day 1. You have to be consistent with your rules. You got to be consistent with your game plan when it comes to how you prepare for a game or however you prepare for practice. I could close my eyes, I could be late for a whole hour, and they're going to do the same exact thing every single day. Line up the gloves, get in 2 rows, sprint, stretch, and I didn't have to do anything. But again, it didn't just start in one day. It started over a course of months, years, and for people to really buy into the system. So when it comes to your practice plan, If your end goal is you want to be a state champion, you want to, win a national championship, you have to make sure that, again, your practice plans are proven to prepare you for that. A lot of coaches come into practice and they don't know what they're going to do. To me, that's my biggest pet peeve, is to come up and see somebody stand around. Like, everybody has to do something. And just my FAMU girls last week, we were doing a hitting station. I was on the field doing defense. We had girls in the cage hitting. We got pitchers doing the bullpen. And then I see like 5 girls standing around waiting for somebody to come to switch out for live pitching. And I'm like, well, what are y'all doing? They're like, oh, we're waiting. No, we got to swing. So I think it's important to understand you have to be consistent, and I don't mind being the big bad bear wolf because, again, I know what it's going to produce. So don't be discouraged. Make sure you sit your coaches down. And that's another thing. I know they didn't talk about that, but you got to sit your coaches down and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Typically, I don't like coaches undermining other coaches. So you have to make sure that everybody on your coaching staff has the same goal, because that's going to make it easier. Because, again, youth, what do? Piggyback, well, she said this, I said that. No, we're all consistent. So then when you come in practice, you already know what you're supposed to do. All the coaches know. And, again, don't be afraid to sit your coaches down and talk to them about their performance. As much as we want to always talk about the player, talk to your coaches. If your coaches are not doing what they need to do, then again, that comes back on you as a head coach. So for me, consistency, discipline, and having everybody trust the process.
That's fantastic. Now, any questions right now for this incredible lineup of coaches right up here? Anybody got any questions? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I guess for me, I think we've all noticed sort of the player landscape changing. We all look at college, we look at transfer portal, we look at players, trying to go from school to school, team to team. I also notice when it comes to coaching and training, the financial side of it has changed a lot in that regard as well. Like, I think most of us probably grew up in rec programs that coaches just volunteered, right? We didn't do a bunch of training. We played multiple sports and all of that stuff. So just given some of the things that have changed within the world and sports, like what are some of the things starting out coaching were pertinent then that may not be so pertinent now, or some of the things that you just feel like can't change at all, right? Like just the landscape. It's a little different. It's, I'm coaching the travel team, and it's not just rec, right? And parents want their kids get play time. Just trying to balance where the world is today with sports and money and all that stuff, right?
I'll go first. I know to me it's a sacrifice as a coach and a parent in order for girls, guys to get seen. I was very fortunate growing up. My dad was in baseball, so I think my two older brothers, they played baseball, and they ruined it. So I think I was more of, my dad wasn't going to allow me to go down the same path that they went. But at the same time, I feel like going back to what the coach from Clark Atlanta said, camps are important. I can't say it enough. I don't know how many emails I probably get almost every single day. I probably get at least 30 emails a day. So as a coach, how can I in the world go through 30 emails in a day and specifically look at each individual girl? It's hard. So I think for me, camps are important. I'm not going to recruit anybody that I haven't seen myself, period. I know I have phone calls, hey, coach, I got this girl. Like, I need to put eyeballs on that person. Yes, I trust you. Yes, I believe you. I appreciate everything that you do. But again, I think to me, it's an investment.
Also, the whole landscape, you mentioned the word landscape, the entire landscape of baseball has changed. And travel baseball has done a large part of that. And there's a positive side to travel baseball, but there's also a big negative side to travel baseball. okay? And I say that with all due respect to whether I've done the travel baseball thing. I was a high school coach for the many, many years. My father played 14 years of Major League Baseball. So I've had I've been in that parameter where with travel baseball, basically they pay to play. And let's be real. I mean, they pay to play. The amount of money that they're asking these kids to pay now, anywhere from $2,500 to $4,000, depending on what travel program you're with. No parent wants to see their child sit on the bench at that point. Okay, if I'm paying $4,000, if you get my child in for 3 innings, you know, that's what they want. That's what they're looking for. Now, as far as high school landscape goes, you don't pay to play. Okay. Now, some programs, depending on what programs you're in, the fundraising that they do and the amount of money that they pay to the booster club, at some point or another, of course, they would want their kids to see the field at some point. But a lot of people, and I give you a great example, I was at Parkview High School for a year or two, and the amount of money that they raise and the amount of money that they pay, okay, but you're not paying for the innings. You'll be amazed at the number of parents that were just happy to say, I'm wearing the orange and white or the orange and blue or whatever, and they didn't really care at that point whether their child got on the field or not, okay? But now again, everybody is not as lucky and as fortunate sometimes to say that, because if I'm paying $4,000, my child needs to see the field at some point, so. Yeah.
At 4, 5, 6U, 7U, they don't need to be playing travel ball. They need to learn the fundamentals. I mean, get real, man. I mean, why is a kid at 6U playing 50 games a summer? That doesn't make sense. I know the landscape has changed, but it's BS. You gotta learn the game. You need to get with a program where they're teaching fundamentals. That'll take you a lot further than these $2 rings that you're gonna get. It's a World Series every week. A lot of careers end at 8U. But they got 3 World Series rings. Let's be realistic, man. And I'm not knocking nobody that's got a travel program that's for 4U, 5U, 6U playing 70 games. It's crazy to me. But you do what you think is best for your kid.
One more question. Oh, we got a couple now. We're going to keep them going as long as we can. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for the, Coach Bill. I struggle with my players. I'm a high school coach, and I struggle with my players thinking that travel ball is more important than high school ball. How can you, or how can I guess, explain to them the difference between, I guess, travel ball in high school, or what's like their take or our take on the travel ball versus high school ball?
Great question.
I think for me, because I did both, so it just made it a little bit better because half of my girls that played travel ball were on my high school team, so it just made it a little bit better. But I think high school, to me, is almost a really big depiction of what college is when it comes to that team, that camaraderie type. Travel ball to me is individualized. You can lose every game, and then you can do good, but you're like, hey, I went 4 for 4, but we lost, 0 to 13. So I think you just gotta buy them in. You gotta figure out what makes your team tick. And I kind of went overboard with high school. Like I did the things that most coaches wouldn't do. And I think they saw that I was invested in them. So not only on the field, but off the field. I went to birthday parties. I went to funerals that, they had within their family. I supported them. I was in the classroom, so I supported them off the field because, again, all those variables transition to how they're going to get recruited. So, again, you just got to sit back and you got to take a step back and evaluate your team and figure out how can I. And you don't need the whole team. You only need about 4 people to buy in. Once those 4 people buy in, then everybody else go fall in line. So you don't need the whole team that's going to buy in. Again, you only need a few. So hopefully that helps.
Can you talk about that, Goody? In a high school setting, it's a big problem also that I had that problem at sometimes that people thought that travel ball was more important than the high school season. But I've seen a lot of kids go through the roof during the high school season because those the last 4 or 5 months that scouts see them. And I've seen a million kids who was hot off the summer and the fall and then got into the high school season and bombed and doggone stock went down. Like Ms. Beal said, I felt like high school baseball was a more depiction of how they're going to do in pro ball because for me, it was more of you only got 30 at-bats, 30 to 50 at-bats, and every at-bat counted, right? If I know I got a million at-bats and it don't matter, and I hit one bomb and I'm happy, that's a different type of pressure than when I got my community there. I got to win. If I go 0 for 4, I might get benched because my coach's job is to win instead of taking money in a travel organization where you're going to play every day, which is a more realistic opportunity when I'm in college. So I just felt like I can tell a player if he's going to be successful through their high school season compared to their travel ball accomplishments.
They're both important. I don't put one over the other. They're both important. I think that a kid can play both. I also think that in the summer that you need to pick and choose. You don't need to play 80 games. I mean, everybody got so many pros in his arm. And when they tell you how important this tournament is this week, was it more important than the tournament last week? But they're both important. I scouted for 17 years, and I scouted just as many high school games as I did summer games. You know, you follow the kid. You follow the kid. So I'm not going to say which one is more important because they're all important. But again, you monitor, and again, I hate it when people say, well, he's got to play this game, he's got to play. No, you got to monitor your kid and see how he feels and make sure what he's doing is the right thing for him. You know, because it's going to be a game next week. You know, they're all important. But again, you are your as a parent, you are your kid's biggest coach. You make those decisions. Nobody tells you what to do or when you have to do it. You know, let's be realistic about it. They're going to come see you play.
And also to piggyback on that a little bit, having a son who played both high school baseball as well as travel baseball over the years, again, it's not a matter of picking and choosing, but it is also a matter of getting to your parents and getting the parents to understand, because the kids are not paying the money. It's the parents that are paying the money for their kid to play travel baseball. The kid's going to do whatever the parent tells them to do. So once again, it goes back to the money aspect. If I'm paying $3,000 for you to play at East Cobb or wherever you're playing, again, getting to the student or the player to say, I need you to be here with me. But now what I did over the years is that as long as it didn't interfere with my program, the high school program, while the high school program was going on, and again, Harnett and Mr. McKinnis, and they can attest to that, my time was my time, okay? Now, after my time is done, because in Georgia high school, you have a dead period where you can't have contact anymore with your players, okay? So at that time, I'm fine with you going to play travel baseball, because at that point, it's more at-bats, more experience for you. So I don't have a problem with, that side.
How have you guys adjusted, or if you adjusted, to the entitlement era that a lot of coaches have been dealing with? I know I kind of deal with it in your programs, or have you changed anything as far as the new era of kids that are coming up?
Well, to answer that question, I have. You have to. Again, I use the term Instagram, Facebook, and all those things were not out. I ask kids all the time, you're always posting your home runs and your doubles and your triples and your stolen bases. How many times have you posted your strikeouts?
Can we do another
How many times have you posted when you made an error? So, of course, you have to make that adjustment. However, I do know colleges, for example, will look on Instagram, and if a kid says, I have verbally committed to Georgia Tech, they take that as literally, and they go hashtag Georgia Tech or whatever, if Georgia Tech has offered them, and they will say, okay, I got a verbal commitment from so-and-so or whoever, okay? That's a big adjustment. It's a big adjustment. Me, personally, I don't think that I could do it. I think I would probably be like, leave your cell phones in your bags or in your lockers. I don't know, because in my era, we didn't have that. We didn't have those type of issues, okay? Those are distractions to me. Those are distractions. But here again, it's part of what we deal with now.
I understand the entitlement era, but in a high school setting, there is no entitlement. The best kid plays. You know, the best kid should play. And I know when the parent goes to the principal, but you've already had your parent meeting, I know. You've already had your parent meeting. You also talked to your administrator. I'm playing the best kid. You're out there every day with this kid. You're not playing a kid because you like him. And I know he was an All-American in Little League. Most of them were. But that's not what your conversation is. And again, you have a conversation with your team. Look here, and get them an opportunity. Who do you think should be in this lineup? It's going to be your decision every time who you put in that lineup. But 99% of your kids are going to put the same people that you have in there because they're out there every day. And that's an exercise I did when these parents wanted to tell me, I want you to play the best 8 in my kid. That's not how it works.
So for me, I think I was talking to my assistant coach the other day about recruitment, and I said, I want people to come to FAMU because they want, like they die for FAMU, like they want to play. So when you have student athletes that want to play for you, the entitlement part, that kind of go out the window because again, they want to play for you. I think a lot of that is the pride. To me, you know, lining up your gloves to me is huge. Putting your helmet straight up, facing all the same way. Just those small things of pride. And then sometimes too, like I've not at FAMU, but obviously when I coach, one day they did something and I said, you know what? Don't wear the jersey. Don't wear your practice jersey. No more. So I used to take little things from them to make sure they understand, like you don't have to have this. So I do little things like that. So I kind of play mind games. Sorry.
All right.
Oh, yeah. But again, that's where we go back to having the parents. If you have parents that are going to support the whole thing, then it makes it 100% better. It makes it so much better.
Y'all, let's give these great coaches a round of applause. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. All right, we've got one person we're going to bring up here in just a second. This gentleman, you know, so many of your programs, you got some great athletes there, and you got some athletes that are developing. You know what I mean? Age-wise, mentality-wise, and strength-wise as well. And right now we're going to bring up Andrew Ramsey. Andrew is the head baseball coach at Hateville Charter, also the assistant football coach at Hateville Charter, but he also runs his own Andrew Ramsey, I think, conditioning and training company, and he's going to talk a little bit about getting strong. Andrew.
Hey man, how y'all doing today? I brought some notes up here I just want to speak on. First of all, I want to thank Minority Prospects for having me out here today. I want to thank all y'all for coming out. First and foremost, a little thing about me, I started with, my coaching career started with Deion Sanders, Truth Organization when he brought it down here to Atlanta, Georgia. Then I carried on into the high school, Hateville Charter. I've been at Hateville for 11 years now. Majority of my success in coaching came during football season. So baseball, I just took over the last 3 years. I took over for baseball. But football has been most of my winning career and success. State championship in 2017, 5 regions titles. I got some things under my belt. But when it comes to this strength and conditioning, we have, as coaches, and we have to understand the difference of training our athletes. Some of our athletes play multiple sports, baseball, football, track. It's a difference when it comes to training. Baseball-wise, we have to understand and and know what are the common injuries that happens in baseball. I wrote them down, rotator cuff, hands, fingers, wrists, hamstring, knees, and rib cage. All right, so when I train, and when you training your guys, like some programs don't have strength and conditioning coaches. So as coaches, we have to be able to adapt, adjust, and put the best exercises out there for our kids, and what will help them with the movements and what we need for baseball. My goals, what I like to do, I like how to prevent injuries. All right. So how do we prevent injuries with the strength condition? You know, never skip a warm up. All right. Never skip a warm up. All right. Wear the right equipment. Hydrate. A proper cool down. All right. A proper cool down. And also, with baseball, don't allow your players to throw too much. All right. Don't allow them to throw too much. All right. My goals. When you set goals for the strength, what are your goals for it? My goal is to enhance performance, increase power, and reduce injuries. All right. That should be some of your goals, especially with this baseball. All right. So I wrote down some things y'all could take back to your schools, things you could do when it comes to strength and condition with your baseball players. When you're talking upper body strength. We're not trying to build our kids like football players. You know, football players, we're taught to be bulked up, strong. Sometimes you don't care if they can lift the weight. You're trying to put as much weight on the plate for them so they can be strong, because in the sport of football, you know, you got to build your body to take on a lot of punishment. Baseball, we don't have to do that. All right, so we definitely want to build our players to be able to perform as we need to perform in baseball. So, a couple things I jotted down for us when you're talking training, upper body strength, bench press. Yes, bench press, you think, yes, it's just to be strong, but it's a way you bench press. All right, we're not trying to put 315 on the bench for our baseball players as well, right? We're not. So you give them reps. You break it down to the point where they are getting stronger, but they're not also over or tearing muscles or bulking up to where they can't throw a fastball or they can't throw from the outfield. You know, our outfield, we're looking for our outfield at least to hit 80-something, trying to throw 80-something from the outfield. You know, if they super strong and bulked up, they're not going to throw that. I can attest for it. I played 2 sports in college. I played football and baseball in college. Yes. Pound for pound, maybe on the scale of my school, I went to Kentucky State, I probably was the strongest on campus. Maxed out at 405 on the bench, but it also hurted me when it comes to baseball. I can hit the cutoff man in the chest, but it ain't going no farther than second base after that. You feel me? Crow hard power, all of that I got because my body was so, the way I trained for football, and time I left football going straight into baseball, my body just couldn't adjust like that. You feel me? So we have to know how to train and adjust our players. So when I say bench press, what does bench press help? It helps with the shoulders, it's chest and triceps. All right, it's good for hitting and throwing. Yes, it is. So, you know, you just got to vary that. Bent over rolls, upper body, upper back, essential. Stability, also for throwing and batting. All right. Pull-ups. Pull-ups improves grip. That's for the baseball. It improves your grip. All right. Push-ups, yes, also enhance upper body power and stability. All right. So them some things you can do with upper body and stuff like that. I like to focus on more of the core and the legs aspect when it comes to baseball and stuff like that. Core, medicine balls, rotational throws. All right. What does that do with the medicine ball? It helps. All right. When we're hitting, we pivoting, throwing through our hips, we hitting. When we throw, we throwing with our hips and core. So that is a major things I like to use when it comes to medicine balls, medicine ball slams that increase the core, the strength, the power, transitioning, all right, well as into hitting and pitching. All right. So those are some things you can use with your players and stuff like that. When it comes to lower body, squats, box jump, lunges, leg press, things of that nature, kettlebell swings, Squats build leg strength. Explosion for running, power, and batting, right? When I say box jump, it's explosion, power, believes, also limping, sprinting, leaping, leaping. Things like that for your baseball players. So everything you do when it comes to strength training, you want to make it transition from what they do in the gym to where it can help us on the field. All right. Other things like that, kettlebell swings. I love kettlebell swings because it engages in the hips and the core. All right. So we have to stretch. Also, stretching is a major thing when it comes to this baseball. And what else? Any questions? Another thing, when it comes to the strength training, focus more on, when you want to focus more on proper technique than weight. All right, doing the things correctly. All right, we can put some weight on the bar and they can say they doing it. They might not be squatting all the way, 90 degree, might not be lifting all the way, but you want to focus more on proper technique more than just the weight. All right, that'll help and get the best out of your athlete as well. Other than that, that's all I really had to say for y'all today. Any questions?
Questions?
Right. What's up, boss man?
Hey, how you doing? Can you talk more about how in-season weight training is important, along with actual proper nutrition to help have performance consistent throughout the year? Because I think I see a lot of kids start off strong, then they start fading because the weight training is not there and the proper nutrition is not there.
Man, that's a good question. And not just in baseball, from your track to your football to every sport that you play. Throughout the year, we could get caught up into baseball where we're playing so many games. You might play on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Saturday or something like that, depending on how your schedule is. You really want to find the time throughout the year, even if you have to sacrifice some of your time as a coach to get them in before school, to train and eat properly. And I know some of these schools meal prep, well not meal prep, but their meals for your athletes are terrible. It's just terrible with the school system that feeds your kid. Then your athlete refer back to the hot Cheetos and candy and chips throughout the year. And I can speak on behalf of Hayville Charter. You know, some of the food that they give the kids is just not enough nutrition for them to have the energy, the will to come out to practice because they hungry, headaches and stuff like that. So we have to find a way as coaches to do it ourselves. That's, if I can say it like that, do it ourselves. But lifting throughout the year is very important. I don't care what you have to do. If you have to skip a practice to get your strength training in, just to keep your players strong throughout the year, you have to do that. And I know I'm struggling at Hayville trying to do that because either we're struggling with not having the field, having to transport kids from Hayville Charter to maybe Old National to use the field, trying to get parents to help, and it's a lot. You know, everybody can't fit in my Impala. You know, that's what I drive. Everybody can't fit in there, so I can't keep making trips and trips and trips. But one thing Reggie said as a coach, man, and what we signed up for, we have to do it. We have to do it. We have to put our kids in position to be successful. So no excuses, even on our behalf as coaches. It should be no excuses.
Any other questions? Anybody? Because that is one of the big challenges that I can see where a lot of the high school, players in general don't eat well. I mean, I ain't even gonna talk about my eating habits now, but anything you can do where you engage those parents again to where they can help with some of that will make a big difference. Any other questions?
Hey Jeff, we'll segue. If we could have all of our coaches, panelists that will present even later in the day, if we can have you guys come up front, we would like to make sure we capture this picture
All of y'all will come right up.
Yep, absolutely. So next, guys, we're getting ready to segue into our breakout sessions.
I think we'll get a picture real quick.
The next breakout sessions will definitely penetrate on more of an individual outlook of things. So we'll have the clinicians from softball side to present in a room that we have that will give you guys more of an intimate setting with them. And then we'll have baseball remain here for our clinicians to go into individual drill sessions in each phase of the game.
Everybody turn your badge around if you don't mind.
Next section will be with Marvin Freeman, pitching. Next section will be with Marvin Freeman pitching on the baseball side. As we move forward, we're going to have about 2 or 3 minutes. Anybody have any just questions in general while we have the whole panel up? Any quick questions? Any quick questions?
Be about anything. We're going to be talking about some analytics, data stuff later. I think the physical thing was huge. The nutritional thing is huge. So, okay. I don't think any questions came up, Alex.
All right, we're going to transition our softball. Going to go out the door right here with Ron. Our softball ladies and gentlemen who's coaching softball going to go right here with Ron. We're going to transition to pitching with Marvin Freeman here. Guys, we'll have 3 speakers here. Then we're going to move to outside with team drills. Make sure you stay the whole time and make sure you knock out these team drills. I know everybody think they're a big time coach. Make sure you lock it in.
So is Marvin going to be the next person up? Okay.
If all of our baseball coaches will remain seated, please remain seated. All of our baseball coaches fill in for us. Then we will momentarily bring up Marvin Freeman to begin his pitching clinic. If we can have all of our coaches go ahead and kind of stay seated for us. Stay seated. We'll get rolling here, guys. All of our baseball coaches, please remain seated. Fill in if you want to move to the front. Please don't miss this, guys. There's going to be a lot of good information here as far as pitching, which is one of our most important phases of the game.
roll it through because the Y is saying now that they first back, it was.
Hey guys, at 2:15, what we got? We got 2 minutes, guys. 2 minutes, 2 minutes. As we go in, let's fill in a little bit up top.
So I'm going to be right here, right?
I'll introduce you and then. Right here in the middle of the center. What's your? Throwing at the guy.
We will be getting started in 1 minute. 1 minute. Please fill in the seats. Find your chair up closer front. We will be getting started in 1 minute.
Grab your lunch and come on, fill in, guys. As DJ Stay Ready said, we'll be getting ready to keep this show rolling in 1 minute. Appreciate you. Next up will be Marvin Freeman presenting on pitching, the area of pitching.
Okay, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, I think all the ladies are outside. If we can find a seat, please, for our next session. If you can, go ahead and find yourself a seat for our next session. This one's going to be an important one, folks. I know everybody's getting a little something to eat, but this session, if you ain't got pitching, you don't have a game. If you don't have pitching, you do not have a game. It'll be a bad game. And we're going to talk a little bit about pitching. So if everybody could, let's go ahead and get our seats so we can introduce our next session. Okay, folks, we'll go ahead and start it out because I'm sure when this gentleman starts talking, y'all will start listening. You know, I know a lot of you know Mr. Freeman, Mr. Marvin Freeman, 10-year MLB vet, pitching coach, emeritus, incredible. But the biggest thing is he's able to tell you and to share with you and to make it simple, a very hard task. And that's the pitching game. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring it up Mr. Marvin Freeman to talk pitching.
What's going on? Finally, we got down to something that I want to talk about. You know, there's been a lot of discussion on pitching that needs to be spoke of today. Most of it has to do with you can't be a successful pitcher if you don't throw hard. Now, it's easy to throw your stud on the mound and just let him cook. But at some point, that worst guy on your team is going to be the guy that's going to have to pitch because everybody else is going to be done. And so I think most of the time it's really unfair to the kids when they don't get a chance to prepare themselves for those moments. I've been to a lot of games. I coached high school for 10 years. I've been coaching youth baseball since 2000, so damn, that's 25 years. I've worked with thousands of pitchers, and they all have to do one thing. They got to release the ball. Every one of them have to let that ball go at some point. And so throughout my years of working with so many different pitchers, body types, different deliveries, I've found that there's three commonalities that all pitchers have to be able to practice these things often, get the kind of repetitions in that they need that's going to make them feel confident, and have some way that they can adjust based off the things that they've practiced. And notice I said the things that they've practiced, because it's really hard to come in from shortstop in the middle of a game with the bases loaded. You get 3 warm-up pitches, and here come the best hitter on the other team, and your coach is talking about, all right, get him out. If I'm in that situation, I'm looking at the coach like, you know, I know this is a game of failure, but you setting me up right now. So throughout our practices during the week, we have to find time for the pitchers to have a bullpen. And the bullpens don't have to be long, drawn-out sessions. We used to call it an elevated game of catch that you're on the mound doing. So if you just got, you don't even need your regular catcher down there. If you got 2 pitchers playing catch in the outfield, one gets up on the mound, the other's behind the plate, he can work on his mechanics. He can work on his feel for getting into his legs. He can work on his finish. He can work on a lot of things that I'm going to lead up to now to really give you an idea of what these 3 staples are that can help your pitchers create a inner confidence so when they get on the mound, they're not just hearing enthusiasm, but they have instruction from the coach. And what I mean by that is a coach can be real demanding. And if he's just yelling out things like, take a deep breath, relax, you can do it, you got this, that ain't telling me that I'm flying all open. I'm throwing balls over the hitter's head. What am I doing wrong? What do I need to do to correct this right now? So the thing about pitching is every pitcher is going to have individual thoughts. And it's a very stressful and mental demanding position because you could be playing the outfield and the pitcher's on the mound thinking about this hitter. He throw a ball, you can start looking into the stands. Meanwhile, the pitcher's got to figure out what he needs to do to fix it. So every pitch, every play, the pitcher is mentally involved in what's going on. So I'm saying all this to say is the preparation before you get to game situations has to occur before the season starts. And you can't just say, hey, throw 20 pitches and then work on your control, and you throw all strikes and you give them a high five and they're gone. Okay, that's easy. The hard part is having a kid understand why something is not working. And that comes from the bullpen sessions that you have. And the bullpen sessions shouldn't be done with a radar gun. You shouldn't have these tools that's going to make a pitcher focus more on velocity. Now, I threw 97. When I first came to the big leagues, I was throwing 97. I thought I was going to be Doc Gooden, striking out 300. And they was turning that stuff around like I was playing front toss. So I had to realize that it's more to pitching than just trying to beat someone with a fastball. And this is why I say, no matter what your velocity is, you have to be able to learn how to subtract from that. Meaning you got to have a changeup to get the hitters out in front. You got to have a breaking ball so that they look at something that looks like a fastball and is not. And all these things can be taught at every age. Now, if you got a guy that's got high velocity, great control, got 3 pitches, I think the Texas scout was in here earlier. He gonna find him. But most of the time, you're gonna have maybe 1, 2, and if you're lucky, you got 3 arms on your team. But it's so many other guys that wanna pitch, and you've seen them throw, and you're like, nah, dog, Well, those guys can really eat up innings and be important parts of your team if they have an understanding that you value them just as much as you value the guys that you checking on when they get to the park. And I always tell pitchers that, like, well, how come, my coach won't pitch me? I say, so when you get to the field, it's gonna be 2 or 3 guys that the coach is gonna ask, hey, how you doing? You good today, right? And it's gonna be a couple guys that you're gonna be like wanting to pitch. They're gonna be standing by the coach all the time, just like looking at him like, come on, when is it gonna be my turn? You gonna get that foul ball over there. You on foul balls today. So that wrecks the confidence of the kid that really wants to be out there to try to pitch, and it makes him abandon it. Now, as we see, the number of black pitchers in the major leagues is like plummeted. From the time I was on, in the big leagues, there was at least 2 on every team. We could at least stand in the outfield and complain, man, it ain't but 2 of us. Now guys is out in the outfield looking around. It might be 1 black dude on the whole field. So you can't have that back and forth in that relationship that we had back in the day. So we have to find out how to make everybody inclusive, from the last guy on the bench to our stud. And again, the practicing, the scheduling, all has to be divvied out equally. So I'm just gonna get into the 3 staples that I've really tried to institute throughout my teaching, especially from working with kids from 8U all the way up to the pros, because my language does not change. Because like I said before, you have to have a starting position, you have to have a drive phase, and then you have to have a finish position. The most important part is that finishing position. Because if you can't consistently finish the same way with whatever pitch you're throwing, then those pitches are going to be inconsistent. So I always like to start with this drill right here. We have a throwing progression, and during that progression, you have to release the ball. So I start with, and I tell the pitchers that I want them moving at 50% effort level. The way that I kind of break it down to them, I'm like, pretend like it's a 5-year-old kid back there and he's catching you. That's how slow I want you to throw the ball. So when you move slow, it's harder than moving fast and out of control. So as they're getting into the throw, and I'm gonna demonstrate it. Let me put the mic down. First thing we do is make sure that they're always in a stretch. Because we try to eliminate all the wasted motion that you can get by being in a wind-up and moving side to side and then trying to direct all this energy to a target. Sometimes in the younger pitcher, the functional strength that they lower half won't allow them to do that. So if you know anything about biomechanics, then you know that there's a kinetic chain of things that have to occur before you get to the point of releasing the ball. And if any portion of that kinetic chain is practicing on crushing the ball down the middle. So if that's the only pitch I can throw, then that means I'm throwing BP. And as a pitcher, you have to get the ball down and away, regardless of who you are. You got to get it down and away, and if you're coming up, it's got to be close to the bottom. Up and in, down and away. Break the ball, you got to throw for a strike. Change up, keep it down. The older you get, the more the hitter gets, then you have to modify some of the things that you do. Any college pitchers in here? Okay. How about high school? High school pitchers in here? I'm sorry, pitching coach. So everybody else is a youth coach under high school? All right, so it's going to be a lot of fun for y'all. It's a lot of fun for y'all having to find and make everybody on your team to at least get on the mound and try and practice pitching. You got a 12-man staff, you should have 12-man on full teams. Even if it's 15 pitches and maybe they don't understand how the lower half works, how they got to create the spin, how they got to control their head, and then how they got to follow through. It's only going to help them as they become better throwers. It's only going to help them understand how the lower half works. It's going to give them a better idea how to move. And as they're getting older, and maybe that slider that they can't hit, or that fastball that's gotten too fast, will run them to the mound. He was talking about a lot of guys that Texas Scout was talking about a lot of guys that came up as catchers, infielders, third basemen. Then they ran against somebody like me that had a nasty split piece. They had a splitter. They had 90 plus. And they was like, hey, I'm going to put this back down. Get a pitcher, give you 4 options. You can still play other positions. Your shortstop don't have to be the guy that pitches all game. But you want to make sure that you got 4 options as a coach by making sure that everyone learns how to at least control their body enough to take whatever pitches that they have and be able to throw them down in the zone, away, and tight to the body in. Easy, simple change. Now, I could go on for hours about pitching because that's how passionate I am about trying to help us as black pitchers get a better handle on why we're quitting at 12, 13, 14 years old. Because the game gets faster, the mound is longer, the hitters get stronger, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's easy to say, hey man, I'm just going to play the outfield. This is a tough position, and we're sensitive. Pitchers are very sensitive. Don't make us scared or soft. We just like, if we don't know what we're doing, it's hard to go out here and have confidence in trying to do something that's so important to the team's success. So you don't miss pitching until you ain't got it. When you find out you got 1 or 2 pitchers and you playing in a tournament where you got to play 5 games in 2 days, you realize that my 12-year-old guy just threw 60 pitches on Friday. I hope he can come back Sunday. Most of the time, they're shot at one game. And they may get maybe 1 or 2 batters that second time out in a 3-day period. But if you're doing more than that, then you're taking a chance on their health. You can't pour all of your resources into 1 or 2 guys and have an 8-game schedule. That's why it's another reason why it's so important to have everybody working their pitching all the time.
Go ahead. Let's go right here real quick. All right.
How you doing, Mr. Freeman? My name is DeAndre. I'm at Willer High School, and I just had a quick question. How many pitches should a pitcher be able to throw in order to take it to the next level as far as college? Kind of pitches. Is it around 4 pitches, five different pitches?
You face a dude throwing 100, and you face him 3 or 4 times, and trust me, I didn't even hit in high school and college, and I know if I got 2-0, I went from getting in the box at 0-2 feeling like Oprah Winfrey to 2-0 feeling like Dave Winfield, because my confidence rise. I know I'm gonna get a fastball. I know if I get my foot down and start early and this fool run one over the plate and it run into my bat, I'm 6'7", 250, man. I ain't got to do nothing but touch it. I'm going into my hack man, one flap down around the bases. So hitting is easy if you make it. It's super hard if you have some deception as a pitcher and you can command both sides of the plate. So 3 pitches, change speeds, you got way more than enough to be successful.
How do you simulate the high-pressure situations for your pitchers, for guys that are easily in practice, can throw strikes, but in high-pressure situations when the game's on the line, they struggle kind of with staying in their mechanics and whatnot?
Well, this is what I use these kind of techniques when I was pitching myself. And I try and make pitchers understand when they're throwing bullpens that the only thing that they can control is the pitch that they're going to throw right now. And so if they don't know what they're doing when they throw a particular pitch, then they're going to hear all this noise, all the doubts, all the self-doubt is going to come in. So this is why when they're throwing bullpens and they miss with a pitch, you have to ask them, what did they do wrong right there? Why did you miss with that? Why is that pitch up high? Why is that one bouncing in the dirt? How come that curveball is nowhere near the strike zone? But you can't get this kind of relationship if you're not there when they're throwing, because it's easy to see a guy throw pound the zone, got a banging breaking ball, no pressure's on. He's playing against a team that he can dominate. But now you get into a high pressure situation and he doesn't know how to throw the ball away, but the hitter that's up there, you're telling him, hey, keep this ball away from him. He like it away. He like it in. Or this guy's an all fastball hitter. Make sure you get your breaking ball over. Then they miss with one, but they don't know why they miss with it, so they're not going to throw it again. So now the pressure of that situation is going to take over because it's panic now. There's nothing you can do once you let the ball go. Once you let it go, hey, it's out of your hands, literally. So you have to make sure that when they're in practice, they have a better understanding of why things go wrong. Why things go wrong. And this is time consuming, and it's definitely going to be a situation where you have to have a back and forth conversation. And most of the time, if you're the only coach and you got a volunteer that's like hitting balls to the outfield or hitting ground balls, and you down here working with your pitchers, each and every one of them need to know what their flaws are so that they can either practice them on their own or practice them with you and get a better understanding of how to correct those things, so that when they're in the game, their pre-pitched thought is on the pitch that they're going to make, not what happened just on the last pitch. And I know as a pitcher, and trust me, when I first came out of high school, I got drafted by the Expos, Montreal, they're the Nationals now, Montreal Expos out of high school. I went to Jackson State. From Chicago, it's 28 degrees. Don't nobody want to hit. I had like 7 or 8 no-hitters, so I ain't never had to come out of game. Every game I pitched in, I was dominating. I get down to Jackson State. I led D1 in walks and strikeouts. That means every inning the base is loaded, dog. I done walked the bases loaded and struck out the side. So you talk about high pressure. I'm throwing 175 pitches in 5 innings. Wasn't no pitch counts back then. How you feel? I'm good. I'm gonna figure this out. So that was a way that taught me that I ain't gonna last like this. So I better understand what a pre-pitch thought is, as opposed to just, oh, fastball, oh, here it is. Most of the time, pitchers don't have a pre-pitch thought that they can fall on to give them some information of how to execute that pitch, and so they get caught up into this thought process. 3 balls again? Man, I don't want to lose this guy. Coach over there tripping, fans getting loud, the team and other. I don't want to walk this guy. Ball 4. Notice the last 3 words I said to myself. Walk this guy. I don't want to walk this guy. So that's the thought that I sent to my brain. It's negative. It's not positive. A positive thought is, I want to make sure I finish downhill, create this backspin. I see the catcher's mitt. I'm going to control my head. I'm going to drive this ball down to the mitt. And then when I strike him out, I'm going to go ahead and C-walk off the mound. Those thoughts carry a lot of weight, especially in pressure situations. But most time we succumb to the pressure because we're not prepared for those moments by preparing for them in practice. And so many guys need to be practicing those scenarios. All right, bases loaded, 3-2. Here come Juan Soto. You miss with a pitch, oh, that's 500 feet. Make them stay there till they make the pitch. Those are little games that I play, and those are mentally strengthening to pitchers so that they can at least say they've rehearsed these situations in their head, so when that time comes on the mound, it's not foreign to them.
Folks, I know that we have a lot of people that have a lot of questions, and I'm sorry I can't get around to them. You know, this man's imparting a lot of great knowledge. This is our last question for him, and then we have to move on to our next. But you're going to be around, so please, if you have a question, you all going to be, are you getting ready to leave? Did he say he get ready to leave?
I missed lunch, man. Y'all was in here munching. I was in here trying. Nah, I'll be around for a minute. I'm going to hang around.
We got 1 and 1 right there. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So how do you manage as a high school program in season when most of your pitchers are also position players, you know, and you got limited time to practice, you know, they got to hit, they got to do their defensive work, but they're also pitchers as well. So how do you manage, you know, you got 3 games a week, varsity, and you got a Monday through Friday practice. How do you prepare them to be able to get their pitching in without taking away from all the other things they have to do on the field?
Okay, so you said, how do they get their pitching in without taking away from the other things on the field? Can you play a game without a pitcher? So shouldn't that be prioritized in your practices? I coached high school for 10 years with 14 players. We played, and our athletic director, he was like out of touch with scheduling. So he would have 4 games in a row, and I got 3 pitchers. My shortstop was my best pitcher, but he was the best shortstop that we had, so he had to play. My catcher was my closer. So if we ever were leading, we had to bring in the second string catcher to catch the closer. So what I would do is I would try and arrange my everyday players to play more early in the week so that I could have that Sunday to rest them again and then reverse that again for the following week. But if you got a hitting group, and I know when you're hitting, they're in groups. You don't put all your guys in one group. If your pitcher needs a 5-minute bullpen, 10-minute bullpen session, you put him in the third group of hitting. While he's hitting, you got somebody down there, and usually you may not even have 2 catchers. You might have a guy that can catch. He's down there giving the pitcher his 5-minute, 8-10 minutes off the mound, whatever he's going to get. Then he can transition back over into a hitting group while the catcher is your backup catcher. He's got to transition over into the group too, so you don't lose him from thinking he's just a bullpen catcher. So it's certain ways that you have to organize your practices that's going to allow everybody to get some time in. You're not going to not let everybody hit, right? So all the pitchers, if you got practice every day, you're not playing every day, your pitchers that's going to pitch at the end of the week have to have bullpens early in the week. The pitchers that's going to pitch early in the week, they might get a little feel and touch bullpen on Friday and Saturday. But everybody has to continue to stay on a routine, and it's got to be timed out. You can't run overtime on somebody's group and then neglect the group that's going to help you be, you know, your pitchers. Your pitchers have to be prioritized just like everybody else. Because again, like I said earlier, you don't miss them until you ain't got them. And when you know you looking up and down that bench and you got a dude that's like, and you trying to see if, you know, your guy down here that pitched yesterday ain't got his arm in a sling, and you like, and this dude down here like, come on, coach. You gotta, you can't go to him like this. Come on, okay, dog. You got to be like, hey, man, it's your time to shine, baby. Let's go. Let's go, dog. But he's only going to buy into that if he's had his work. So everybody has to get the work, and you got to make sure that you schedule it appropriately.
One more.
In the era with a power pitcher, a lot of kids are seeing like slider in the big leagues. A lot of guys throw more sliders than fastballs. And We have
Why you think that?
Because it's hard and it's moving. You know, it's tough to hit. I understand.
But they all throwing 99 though, right?
Right.
So
but-
why they all throwing sliders?
Because it's hard, it's sharp, and it's moving.
It's hard because
And
they
you're not
can't
gonna hit that
command
fa-
these
they-
pitches.
Right.
So your question is, should they throw more sliders in high school?
No, sir. So what happens, you say we have a lot of youth coaches in here, once the kids find something that they can spin around 10 years old, they abandon the changeup in youth ball, travel ball. And then when the kids get to high school, you ask them what pitch you throw. I throw a fastball, breaking ball, changeup. But they have no confidence in the changeup because they stop throwing it around, 10 years old once they start getting strikeouts. And so we get a lot of guys spiking changeups, and we try to play changeup catch. We try to find that feel for the pitch. I heard you say, the changeup easy pitch, but a lot of times the kids they can't find a command or even just control, just so they can throw it in the zone. Because I love the changeup, but when we get high school kids in, they just leaning on that breaking ball so much.
Okay, so how many of you guys call your pitches for your pitchers? Go ahead, don't be shy, raise your hand. Everybody raise your hand. I know everybody doing it. Everybody calling their pitches because you know if a guy ain't got a curveball, you would rather for him to give up a hit on a fastball than throw 3 or 4 curveballs and walk a guy, right? This is what's happening in Little League. They cut me off? It's like the Oscars up in here, boy. You go over, they shut the mic off on you. They can't silence me, dog. So my point is, just like I talked about earlier, if you don't know what you're doing wrong on a particular pitch, you don't know how to correct it. And so you can't just assume since he can't throw one for a strike, he don't know how, so I'm not gonna stop calling it. So all these things have to be addressed at an early age so that they have an idea how to make these adjustments, how to really see what they're doing wrong. And all these things can be figured out when they're playing catch in the outfield. So this drill that I was talking about earlier, it's not just for a fastball. I mean, you start off throwing the fastball, but you're throwing all your pitches trying to maintain stability. You're trying to spin all your pitches. You're trying to throw a changeup playing catch to a target, not just throwing it. Most of the time, we get a disconnect from just throwing to a destination. So we have to have a starting point where the ball comes out, and our brain has to have a destination where it's trying to end so that our head and our body can be under control so we can visibly see the ball flight as much as possible during bullpens, during the week, playing catch in the outfield. Because trust me, you are not going to figure this out in the game if you haven't worked on it a lot. And pitching is a game of, baseball is a game of repetition. The more you do something, the better you're going to get a feel for it. If you don't do it a lot, you're going to have a lot of doubts, and you're not going to be able to perform the way your brain thinks it is. And so the reinforcement is going to come in your practices. The reinforcement is going to come with understanding how to make those adjustments quickly, how to make them at all. And so I get what you're saying. Most of the guys in the big leagues is throwing sliders because they nasty. I mean, your slider breaking 2 feet and it's got some downward drop on it when you got a 95-mile-an-hour fastball in your back pocket that you scared to throw because somebody can hit it. I'm going to throw all sliders too. I saw in the World Series a dude threw 55 changeups in a row. What you changing up off of? You changing up off the changeup that you changed up on? So his changeup was really good because hitters are geared to hit the fastball. Your reflex action is going to get you to a fastball better than your eyes are going to recognize if it's breaking or is it off speed. So them guys in the big leagues are trying to stay there. They're going to keep doing what got them there. But coming up as youth pitchers, we have to develop how the fundamentals of our mechanics are going to allow us to keep growing into that big league guy. And it ain't going to grow into it if we're not doing the things on a regular basis as much as we can throughout our practice schedule, the scheduled practices where they have to take place. So don't put the pitchers on the back burner and expect them to give you, Jacob deGrom results. You ain't going to get Spencer Strider if he ain't out there doing what he's supposed to be doing. So, like I said, if you guys have any other kind of questions that you didn't come up with, DM my Instagram, Freeman Baseball. It's one word, Freeman Baseball, and it's fire. I mean, it's entertaining, it's informative, and you can learn a lot about how to get some of these techniques and practices, and you can even have your players look at some of the other players at their own age doing the things that we just talked about, so that it's not a fantasy to them that they can do it as well. So if you guys give yourself a chance to become better pitching coaches, it's only going to help your whole team to get to the point where you can start talking about having a winning program. Because you can't win with no pitching. I don't care what nobody say. You ain't going to go out there and out-bang the team if your pitchers ain't getting nobody out, but their pitcher is. So that's that.
Thank you, my friend. Y'all give a round of applause. And again, thank you.
We'll move, since it's so much interest in Marvin Freeman, we'll do a live session maybe in 2 weeks where you can do some Q&A live with Marvin Freeman or something like that. And we're going to do some instructional videos coming up too with Marvin. So we'll make sure that you get as many questions out in the next couple of weeks when he's available.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you. And now, look, you see how they looked at each other? The pitcher looks at the hitter. MLB veteran, hitting extraordinary coach, Carl Nichols. Wait a minute, should I keep y'all?
No, I just want to ask him one question.
Okay, what is it?
You ever face me?
I was going to get to that.
What'd I do?
We're going to just let it go at that. Mr. Nichols, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I did.
He's talking about hitting, y'all.
My on-base percentage is 1,000 against Marvin Freeman. So, hey, you hear that part. Hey, you're blocking the camera.
No, oh, yeah, okay.
All right.
They want me to still cook. I didn't want some dessert.
So, yeah, my on-base percentage is 1,000 against Marvin Freeman. But I batted one time against him. He hit me in the head, so. So what I was going to say about that is, if you want your pitchers to have more success, you got to teach them to pitch inside. Then it doesn't matter the velocity. Matter of fact, the slower you throw, the more they need to pitch inside. All right, so that's from a former catcher. All right. So anyway, I'm here to talk about hitting. So when my hitting journey, I played 3 years in the big leagues or whatever. The stuff that I was taught as a player, I found out later, most of that stuff was inaccurate, right? And I was a player that whatever you told me to do, I tried to do it literally. And, a lot of instructors were giving me cues and stuff based on their opinion and all that stuff, and it didn't work for me, right? I was good enough to get there, but because of the stuff that I was doing, I wasn't able to stay there longer than I hoped. So after I was done playing, I, was seeking for some answers, and thanks to guys like Don Slott and Reggie Smith and a few others, I've been able to figure out some things about hitting, what works, what doesn't work. So one of my big things is cause and effect, right? So everything that happens in the swing, good or bad, is something that causes it to happen. So if you know what causes it, as a hitter, then if things are going bad, you can fix it, right? So the guys that I work with, I try to teach them to be their own hitting coach, okay? Don't rely on me to fix everything every time something happens, right? And you can only do that if you know how the swing works, and if you know how your swing works and what your tendencies are, because everybody has tendencies. So that's the basis of what I try to teach and work with when I work with hitters. And then I don't know everything, and so when I come across something I don't have the answer, I call somebody and try to find the answer. Okay, so what I teach is 4 basic things: balance, posture, timing, and vision. Right. So if you can just get those 4 basic things, it makes hitting a lot easier. And obviously, guys, the more bat speed you have, the easier it is to get guys to do what you want to do. But with me, I'm working with, especially at the amateur level, you guys are working with all different kinds of talent levels, right? So, and different talent levels, and each kid is a different type of learner, right? So you have to figure out 1,000 ways to say the same thing, right? Because everybody interprets things differently when you try to explain it to them. But anyway, so the first thing that I try, when I'm working with a hitter for the first time, I talk to them about balance and what is balance, right? So obviously you need to be balanced to perform any kind of athletic move. But what's missing with when we talk about balance, what most people don't know is each player has their own balance point, so it's different for each player, right? So you have to, and the reason that balance is important is, so obviously it's balance, you need to be balanced when you're hitting, but your balance affects your vision, like literally. It affects how you see the ball. So if you're off just a little bit in your balance, it will affect how you see the ball in space, right? So if you've ever been in a situation where you're getting pitches, you're seeing the ball, right? You take a swing and you end up fouling it off or just missing it and you know you should have hit it, it's because you're not balanced, you're off balance, right? Because your brain is giving you a different message than what's actually happening. Right, so for you guys that don't know, when you're hitting, you don't see the ball the last 20 feet. Everybody know that? Yes, no? Okay, you actually don't see the ball the last 20 feet. Okay, your brain is projecting where that ball is going to be when it gets to the hitting area. Right, so if you're not balanced correctly, your brain gets the wrong information, and you end up swinging at a different spot than where the ball actually is. So it's very important. One, that each individual finds their balance point, right? And there's a couple of ways you can do it. The easiest way is, because most kids, they play football or basketball, right? So you just tell them, when you're playing basketball, how do you play defense? And usually they'll get into their natural athletic position, right? That's where they should be hitting from, because that's their balance point for their body. And then you just work from there, okay? Get them balanced. And then, so from there, we go from balance, we talk about power and where power comes from. Okay, and when I say power, it's not just home runs. Doubles and triples count as power too, right? So, where does power come from? Same with the pitching. It comes from the ground force reaction, right? So basically what ground force reaction is, the energy that you put into the ground, it comes back up through your body and then out through the ball, right? So so same thing with pitching. You got to stay connected to the ground as long as possible, right? So that energy comes up and gets into the ball, right? And there's more to it, but basically that's how it works, and that's what we talk about when we're hitting. Posture. What is your posture? Again, posture is going to be unique to each individual hitter, right? But basically your posture determines your bat path, right? Because we hear a lot of things about, swing up, swing down, swing level, and what does all that stuff mean, right? So for me, it's swing level to the path of the ball, right? So then I try to work on what actually happens in the swing versus what we think happens. Right? And if that hitter needs to think swing down in order to get on plane, then that's fine. But I don't tell guys, you need to swing down, you need to swing up. I just tell them to get on plane, right? So just imagine pitcher, Okay, pitcher's mound is 10 inches. Average major league pitcher is 6'3". So you're looking at 7 foot 1 inches, right? So you got a guy 7 foot 1 throwing a ball to a target that's 6 inches off the ground. So even if that guy's throwing 100 miles an hour, that ball's going on a downward plane, right? So in order to get on that plane, because everybody that swings a bat, right? Bat's going to be perpendicular to your spine, forms a T, right? So if I'm standing straight up, in order for me to get on plane, I got to manipulate the bat this way, trying to get on plane, which is going to make me inconsistent. Versus just if I got into my athletic position, right? And now when I take my swing, the bat naturally takes an upward plane to match the ball that's coming down. Right, so again, if you can get your players into an athletic position in a good posture, it'll get them on plane more consistently, right? So if you go watch any successful hitter from little league to the big leagues, they all have that in common. They all have a good posture. Barry Bonds, Tony Gwynn, Albert Pujols, all those guys. And anybody, you guys familiar with Tamar Johnson? Okay, so Tamar is one of my guys. I've known Tamar since he was 3 years old. So all this stuff that I talk about, he actually did naturally, right? So, because one of the hardest things for a lot of hitting coaches to do at every level, even at the pro level, is to leave guys alone, right? So the best thing that happened to him was his mother never let anybody mess with him when he was growing up, as far as his hitting, except for me. But as he was growing up, we never talked about hitting. Or let me rephrase that, I never told him what he needed to do. I just watched what he did, and then I explained to him what he was doing, right? So that when he would struggle, he would know how to fix it, right? Because I'm really big on being your own hitting coach, right? So it wasn't until he got about 14, 15 that we really started getting into the mechanics of hitting and all that kind of stuff. But before then, I just left him alone, which takes me to, giving lessons to 8, 9, 10-year-olds. It's been said a couple of times, it's really a waste of money, right? Because especially when they're that young, because whatever I teach an 8-year-old today, he's going to forget it as soon as he walks out the door. And that's literally and figuratively, because what happens is when they go home, they go to sleep, they grow 1 million new cell muscles in their body every night. So even if you get them to doing everything you want them to do, they got to learn it again the next day, right? So you're better off just letting them figure things out on their own, right, until they get about 12, 13, then you start incorporating the lessons and all that stuff. And the other thing that does too is, if you start giving them lessons too early, they become robots, all right? They don't know how to make adjustments, which is a big thing I see at the amateur level. They can't make an adjustment unless somebody tells them what they need to do or what they should do, right? So if you ever watch me coach, especially with the younger kids, when they're hitting, I hardly say anything to them. I just tell them, figure it out. Do what you got to do. The man on third, less than 2 outs, do what you got to do to get this run in. Okay, all the instruction and all that stuff is out the door. Just figure it out at the moment, and then we'll talk about it later, and we'll make our adjustments, and then you go work on it. But you have to give them the freedom to do that stuff, so that when they start getting instruction, right, and they start hearing a lot of BS about hitting, they can start asking questions. That doesn't sound right, or that doesn't feel right. Right, because again, when I'm doing lessons, I encourage that those players ask me questions. If I say something that doesn't make sense, you got to call me out on it. Don't just do what I tell you just because you're paying me. Right, it has to make sense. So, but again, you want to make sure they're in a good balanced position. Make sure they're in their balance, because again, just an inch. Moving their foot just an inch will affect how they see the ball, right? And if you want to hear more about the stuff, you guys go to YouTube and pull up Reggie Smith. or the pure swing, baseball, he talks a lot about all this stuff and how he found out, because he did all this stuff in the lab. All this stuff came out of the lab. They did studies on how your posture and your balance and all that stuff, it affects your vision, affects how your brain reacts to the ball and all that kind of stuff. So this is not my philosophy or his philosophy. This is based on science, all right? So again, balance, posture, and timing. So I go to a lot of games, high school games, travel ball games, all that stuff. So the biggest thing I see with all these kids is their timing is terrible. Like, they're always late. And so they're late getting started, but instead of adjusting their timing, they're changing their mechanics, right? Then they end up making their swing worse. So when you're working with your guys, before you start changing their mechanics, make sure that they're starting on time, okay? Because if you're late, once you're late, your mechanics will get all out of whack anyway. But if you get them on time, a lot of times they'll adjust their mechanics to do what they're supposed to do, what they need to do. Okay, so before you start doing mechanical changes, make sure they're on time. Okay, because timing is everything. Because it doesn't matter how good your swing is, if you're not on time, you're not going to get a hit. Right? Pitcher's job is to disrupt your timing. Right? So you got to make sure that you're on time, or make sure your hitters are on time, so that again, from that point, if they're on time, most of the time they'll make the proper adjustment they need to make in order to, get the barrel of the ball. What was something else I wanted to address on that? Go ahead. Okay, yeah, that was exactly what I wanted to cover. Okay, so approach is very important. It's one of the things that we don't discuss enough with our hitters, having an approach and having a plan. So there's in your books that you got on the first page, that hitter's guide thing. I think it's on the first page. Yeah, the hitting charts that you got. I would encourage you to make all your players keep a chart. Like, take that, make copies, and make them keep a book on every pitcher that they face, right? Because what will happen is, after a few at-bats, they'll start seeing patterns in the way that they're hitting and the pitchers that they're facing, right? So, for example, one year, halfway into the season, I started doing it. And after about 3, 4, not even games, about 5, 6 at-bats, I started finding out that every time that I got into a 2-1 count off this certain pitcher, he would throw me a slider off the plate, and I was always swinging at it. Right? Now, in the moment, I couldn't figure that out, but once I saw it on the chart, it changed my approach when I was facing that guy. Right? Because basically, I knew what was coming, just based on his tendencies, because everybody has tendencies, hitting and pitching. Right? So if you just have them chart their at-bats, it'll change their approach. It'll improve their approach, because they literally will know what's coming when they go up to hit, based on whatever kind of hitter they are, right? Also with that is 90% of the time you're looking to hit the ball the other way, right? So if you're a right-handed hitter, your approach should be, I'm trying to hit this ball to right center. If you're a left-handed hitter, I'm trying to hit this ball to right-handed to right center, left-handed to left center. Okay, so when I work on, when I'm working with a hitter, when we hit off the tee, 90% of the time that tee is on the front outside corner, right? Because if he can hit that ball hard the other way, with that swing, he can hit any other pitch in the strike zone, right? So 90% of the time we're working on outside, low and away corner, get him to drive that ball the other way. Again, all the successful hitters throughout history, that's what they do. They look to hit the ball the other way or react to the ball in. Because balls that you get inside, most of the time are going to just be mistakes anyway, right? But if you're in position, and what that does is, by looking to go up the middle the other way, it puts your body in the right position, right? Because if I'm always looking in, tendency is I start landing with my hips open if I'm always looking in. All right, so the approach should be up the middle, right center, depending on how quick of a bat you have. But that's the approach you want your kids to have. So anybody got any questions? Question was about elbow up or elbow down. It's really up to the kid. So what happens is, when your elbow is up, you end up creating more, it allows you to create more bat speed. But it also creates more swing and misses. Right, so you just have to, help the kid with, if you watch Javier Baez, he's got his elbow way up. He generates a whole lot of bat speed for a little guy, but every 20 pitches he may make contact one time because of that elbow up creates a big loop. Right, so the majority of hitters are somewhere in the middle. So you just got to help them find a place that's comfortable, that works, where you can maximize bat speed at the same time being able to make consistent contact.
Where? Got it. One more question.
Go ahead. So I find this all the time as a college coach, right? Go ahead. Guys not being able to, I guess you would say, understand where to start, right? You said you were giving them pointers on that. So as to help all of us, what do you suggest recommending on how to tell them how to start, what they need to visualize, and different things like that?
All right, well, visualize, I think most people know this. When you're teach your guys when they're in the box, try to focus on something. Most guys focus on the logo on the hat. And then once they get into this position, you shift your eyes to wherever the release point is. If it's here, or wherever it may be. So you go here and then shift to the release point. As far as the timing is a brain function, right? So meaning I can't tell you when to start or when not to start, right? Because it's different for everybody, right? Some guys will start when the leg comes up, some guys start when the hands separate. So usually what I tell guys is start early, don't stop. And then from there, they'll figure it out when they need to start. Start early, don't stop. So if you start them earlier than they need to, then they'll self-regulate themselves back to where they need to be, right? So I'll just give you a quick story about Tamar. So Tamar's junior year in high school, he was playing in the Arico game when they had it here during COVID. He was an underclassman playing with the upper class. And so he was going to lead off the first game. And the pitcher he was going to face, well, the night before the game, his mother told me the story. He's sitting at the dinner table, and he's got his head down, right? And his mom asked him, "Tamar, what's wrong?" And he said, "Nothing." So he looked up. He had his phone in his hand. He was looking at pictures on YouTube that threw 100 miles an hour. Because the guy he was facing the next day, Chase Petty, threw 100 miles an hour. All right, so the next day, 8 o'clock in the morning, first pitch, and they had the big screen behind home plate that posted all the velocities. First pitch of the game was 99, and he fouls it straight back. Next pitch is 99, he hits a line drive to left field. The rest of the guys come up, he's just striking them out, left and right. Tamar comes up again, another pitch 99, he hits another line drive to left field, right? So he worked on his timing the night before. he was getting himself, he knew he had to get himself started early, especially with him because he had the leg kick and all that stuff. And again, because it's a brain function, right, you literally can sit in a chair and watch YouTube and work on your timing as a hitter, right? Or when your hitters are on the bench, make sure they're watching the pitcher in the bullpen, watch the pitcher on the mound, and practice getting started, right? Because again, it's different for everybody, so no one thing is going to work for everybody. So again, what I tell them, start early, don't stop, and then from there, they'll figure it out where they need to start.
All right, let's give him a round of applause, Carl Nichols. A lot of great information, sir. First, let me shake that hand. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I'll get that. And we have another person who's going to be coming up right now to talk a little bit about pitching procedure. He's the owner of Full Force? Full Count. Full Count. This is Eric Alonso. Did I say it right?
Yeah. How's it going, guys? Do I have the mic in a good spot right here? A little bit higher? Okay. I work at Full Count, Georgia. I've passed out a couple of QR codes already on this right side. I'm going to pass this out on the left. If you don't mind, pass this around. Pass that back too. This presentation's not going to go well if you don't have these QR codes, so if you don't mind. It's going to pull up right over here. But now I wanted to thank Weish. Thanks for asking me to come out. Kind of feel like we've kind of gone up the ranks together. Really, 2020 was when I met Alex, and MVP is, Full Count. We've been doing things with MVP 2 or 3 times a year. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. A lot of people here know Full Count, weighted balls, technology, things like that. The message I wanted to kind of start with is weighted balls and technology should only be used after you've built a pitcher's foundation. So that it should not be, hey, I'm a high school coach or a middle school coach, let's go buy some driveline balls and my team's going to start instantly winning games and seeing results. If you use these things the wrong way, you can not only hurt your players, you're going to make them worse. So I just wanted to kind of start with that message. So I'm going to go through just talking about how to develop a high school pitcher. You have to identify these 2 types of arms. You have a program guy and a prospect. Your prospects may be your Landon Sims, your Donye Evans, your Jalen Payton, your Jaden Woods, Mark Church. These guys are prospects. You're going to be dealing with MLB scouts. You're going to be dealing with agents. You're going to be dealing with travel ball coaches. And you're going to kind of have to modify and move around some things just because you want the best for them. You're also going to have program guys who can be college players. They can be prospects, things like that. But they're your guys that are going to show up every day. They're going to do their lifting, their throwing. And the goal would be to kind of gel both those worlds together. You want your prospect guy to be your program guy, so that's when you start becoming Parkview, Lowndes, all these high-end high schools where you have the winning culture. So you want to get the buy-in from from both sides. So I'm going to go into a throwing calendar just for an entire year. It's going to start, in the fall. After fall ball is done, you're going to start building your pitchers up. I call this the build-up phase. They're going to be throwing from 60 feet, building up to 90, 120. You're not going to get past 180 feet. You can put them on a timer. You can put throwing distances and the amount of throws they're going to have at each distance. And on the QR code, I have a G sheet where it'll have this a little bit more in depth on the amount of throws at 60, 90, 120, and 180. But that build-up phase is just getting their arm ready. Because once you move into the next phase, which will be your on-ramp, which is going to be going into long tossing, maybe some velocity work, start using your plyos and things, right? So that's where you're going to be at 180 feet. Once you're about 180 for a week, you're going to start moving to 220, 250, into 300, going into that long toss phase, okay? The next part will be live. You know, you'll have your bullpens. Sorry, I misspoke. Next phase is going to be your bullpen phase. That's where you're going to start with your first week of December. You're going to start throwing 15 fastballs, 20 fastballs, maybe for the first 2 weeks. Just, you don't know if your kids have been doing anything over Thanksgiving break, over winter break. You can't trust them necessarily, they're kids. So start with just fastballs only. Second and third week, you move into your fastball changeup. Third and fourth week, by the end of the month, you should be throwing all your pitches. You can use that at every age, you know, I mean, I prefer guys, you know, between 10 and 12, you don't really want them throwing breaking balls. Maybe just kind of do two rounds of fastball only bullpens, and then move into fastball changeup. The longer you can delay them throwing breaking balls, you can protect their arms, okay? So then the last phase I have, you would have your live phase. You're getting ready for games. You're gonna throw to hitters. Kind of start out the same way, 20 pitches, cut it off. That's about 3 or 4 hitters, right? Then the next week you're gonna move up to 25, week after that, 35, and then you can start scrimmaging. That'll put you at the end of January, where, you know, I think tryouts is January 27th. You'll be ready to go scrimmage, be ready early February to throw 1 or 2 innings, like in your first game. So the next piece is just like your in-season plan, right? So you're gonna have your starters, you're gonna have your relievers. Right here's the in-season plan for a 7-day starter plan, 6-day starter plan, and a 5-day starter plan, okay? All it really is it sets up, hey, you're gonna throw 1 bullpen this week, 2 days before your start. Or maybe you throw a flat ground, a short box, and a bullpen. And this plan, if you have a kid that is struggling to throw strikes, they always need to be on the 7-day plan, whether it is a reliever or a starter, because they're going to need to get on the mound. They're going to need to be throwing over the plate constantly, just so you can win a game and they're not walking bases loaded in the first inning. I prefer the 7-day plan. You put your wild card guys, maybe like your Danye Evans on Monday, or Gavin Collier and guys like that, where, hey, if this guy is in the zone, you're going to win no matter what, right? But that allows them to have that time to throw a bullpen before every single start. And I have pitch counts and some things on this as well. Don't throw your kids 2 times in a week, okay? I do have a plan in there called an ICE plan, where, hey, if they're going to throw on Monday, 1 inning, and then you want them to throw on Friday as well, that's like once a year maybe you use that, but because I know coaches are going to do that, I put that plan in there anyways. But these are high school kids. They're not professionals. They're not making millions of dollars where yeah, you're going to throw three times in a week in the big leagues. These are high school kids that are 14, 15, 16 years old. In the minor leagues, there's a lot of rules where, you know, guys don't even throw back-to-back days in the minor leagues. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're pitching your guys at the youth level and the high school level. Like, they need 2 or 3 days off in between, even if they're a reliever. They need a full week off in between if they're a starter. So the next thing I want to go into is the post-game evaluation sheet. So a lot of these guys, like, we've kind of lost the pitch IQ part of baseball these days. And you're going to just learn from playing in the games, right? Well, most of the time you struggle, you pitch well, you never really like sit down and review it. 2 of the questions that I have on there would be, where did my mind go when my teammates made errors? Just like the guys that, they're young, they're going to roll their eyes, they're going to throw their gloves, but they're never going to stop doing those things until you teach them that's not what you're supposed to do. Just like a position player wants a pitcher to throw strikes, we're not trying to throw balls, obviously. The shortstop's not trying to make an error, okay? So kind of like taking the time to sit down and going through this post-game evaluation sheet will start to nip those things in the butt, you know, and they don't know any better. And then the second question I have on there, was I positive or negative with my self-talk? You don't know what these kids are thinking on the mound, and kids these days are so different from when I played and when you guys played, you know? But, like, you may have a kid who throws 94, and he's going to be like, well, the last 2 times I pitched at 6.43, I gave up 3 runs. I don't ever want to pitch there. Like, these kids aren't confident, and it's just. But just really just understanding what's going through their mind. You know, if you have a kid who's not confident, at least he's written it on paper and you know what you're coaching now. Now it's you're getting on the mound. Now you know that kid's not confident on the mound, so the rest of the week you have to try and build a warrior, make that confidence. Let's see. But those are kind of the things I wanted to talk about. If you continue going through that PowerPoint, I have a bunch of free drills in there. Just going through plyo work, different ways to attack different pitchers, whether it's like their arm action being late or their front side breaking down, things like that. But I also put my phone number in there and my email. Please reach out to me. I would love to help with any of you guys, Zoom, phone call, anything. But I just want to thank Alex again. Thanks for having me out.
2 questions we can get with him. 2 questions. Where do we have one? Someone over here? Yes, sir.
Hey, now when you say you don't want pitchers pitching 2 times a week,
right?
That's a preference, correct?
Yes. So, go ahead.
So, in dire need, how many pitchers are you looking to taking into a high school season? Starters and relievers.
In the high school, you probably need to at least have 3 starters, right? At the bare minimum, I prefer to have 4, right? 2, 3 relievers, and I understand at high school some teams only have 9 or 10 pitchers on staff, but it kind of goes back to what Marvin was talking about, where you should at some point throw every single person in your program, because I guarantee you're going to find 2 or 3 more guys that either have some type of arm talent or they throw strikes. I thought that was great what he was talking about, where, hey, put everybody on the mound. You never know. I think I heard Mark Church started out as a second baseman, and now he's a big leaguer, you know, shutting it down as a reliever. So, you know, you may have the next Mark Church on your team, and you just you've never put him on the mound.
Another question? I got a quick observation about Marky Church. Went to North Atlanta High School. Will, tell them about Mark.
Well, I played with Mark's older brother, Matthew, and we were always position players together. We played outfield, and Mark was always hitting with us and always trying to be a position player like his older brother. And, I mean, it got to when he was getting older, he obviously grew way more, but it wasn't until a little later until he became a pitcher. But it was just funny that he was always playing second base, infield, and then, you know, a few years down the road, now he's a reliever in the big league. So, very cool.
No, for sure. I know Alex, he made Taj Bradley pitch, so he changed his career too. So you'd be surprised how many guys are on your bench or just position players that can give you innings.
Y'all, let's give Eric a big round of applause. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Make sure you go to his website and get that presentation.
Hey guys, we're gonna move to the outside to the big field to your left. Make sure you stay for this, guys. We're gonna go with Daryl Boston with defensive outfield drills and whatever else you wanna, and base running. And then we're gonna go with Christopher Harnett with the team defense with double cuts, everything you need to know to run a great practice, guys. So let's head to the outfield, to outside, and let's get it going.
All right.
here, don't you? Okay. There you go. Thank you so much. No problem. Appreciate you, Joe.